moisture that we've received and for the answer to our prayers in receiving this moisture. Father, we want to give you thanks for the opportunity we have to live in this great free land, and ask that you would lead us and guide us, that we may be able to continue to provide freedom for everybody here. Father, we love thee and we love thy Son, and we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I've got the minutes from our September 10th, 2018 meeting. We had a chance to review those.
Yes, move for approval on minutes of September 10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So minutes are approved. All right, let's move on to our department reports. Start with building, zoning, planning.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is going to be from August. The notes will be there and so forth. The numbers and that were on there. You know, we do have September's done due to the fact that I am behind in recording this one.
Thank you, Chad.
Our numbers are online this year to exceed the numbers. The building permit numbers are online to exceed what our all-time high. Our all-time high for building permits issued in the unincorporated areas only are 337. With our numbers, the way that they're stacking up, as you can see, our year-to-date right there, on 242 as of last month. And if you go to our files and figure in the number of permits and applications, plans that we have on file, not only waiting to be reviewed, but also ready to issue, you add all three of those together, we would exceed by quite a ways that number that we're looking at on the screen right there, that top number. Now, if you add in the other entities that we do, and for the information of the public, we do cover everybody in the county as a building department through the county, except for Enoch and Cedar City. And we've issued 309 to date. So we are very busy in the building inspection aspect of the departments that I supervise at this time. Just for your information, Cedar City has lost an inspector. It's making us a little bit nervous in the fact that we don't want to play musical inspectors. We're hoping that they don't steal one of ours and then us have to go looking again. It is very hard to find certified, qualified, and licensed inspectors right now across the state. As I've expressed before, the northern end of the state plays that game quite often. Just a little more of a side note there is the Iron County Home Builders Association has approached the city several times, and they have again in the last week, to contract through the county just like so many of the other entities do. I don't see that happening. I think it's advantageous personally for Cedar City to keep it separate, but just a heads up in case they do come to us to explore that option. Let's move on to the planning and zoning that I also supervise. That is very busy with the zoning. We are having many more complaints than we've had for a decade or longer on the zoning. The pendulum has swung back to where people have recognized that property rights do work two directions. It doesn't only work for those who want to do with their property, but it also protects the neighbors and surrounding areas from those that want to do things that would be not conducive to the zones in which they're there. So we are getting complaints there. As you know, in the past, what we have done with the zoning has been very little due to the political move, and it is swinging back. So we are getting more complaints there. Is the reason I feel like we are. one of the big things that we're working on in the planning department right now, Reed and myself are spending lots of time on, is due to recent legislation, there are some basically neighborhood agricultural opportunities out there that have been passed through state legislation. However, they have not been mandated for the county to adopt and enforce or accept, but they are some good concepts, and we are going to probably mock many of those that they have done. As you know, agricultural, that I'm very proud of, is still our top industry in Iron County. You think it's construction right now? It isn't. It's still agriculture, and I'm proud of that. I love to eat. The building maintenance, as you noticed, the landscaping on the courthouse here is beginning and underway. They have done a little bit, but have been slowed down from weather the last few days, and obviously are not here today for the same reason. Lester's going to report on that later with some specifics and ask for some things, so I'm not going to get into that end of it. Moving on right here real quickly onto the budgets and personnel, since there's many reporting, unless there's any questions. Budgets, I believe, on the bottom line, I will look pretty good. Appreciate Dan helping me through some line items. He's not in here yet, but we are going to go over on some line item budgets. But when we get the bottom line, we will be in real good shape. And the big thing that I'd like to put in the commissioner's mind today is, you know, I did email you Friday evening. We do have Ensign Engineering looking and wanting an answer for what we would want to do about renting them space in the Fiddler's Canyon building. They do want an extensive remodel and renovation to do so. We estimate that to be a minimum of $30,000, maybe up to $40,000, depending on how extravagant we want to go on that.
They're expecting to upfront that, or we expect it upfront and put in the rent?
We haven't got that far along with them yet, so we're not sure. Those things would have to be worked out. So with that discussion, I think if we are going to hang on to that building, I would advise us not to. I've been doing a lot of study on the amount of space that's available in Cedar City. I think it'd be extremely hard to rent. And if you go back and review my emails and so forth and reports and the recommendations, that I still don't think that we should be competing with the private sector and renting to private individuals. If we're going to rent that building, it needs to be to government entities for many reasons. And I've expressed those in other times, so unless there's any questions or so forth, I apologize. I skipped over this. There are that I was going to show you. We scanned down one, John, back to the building permit numbers. There, if you're interested, I send these out to each one of you anyway, but that does break down the single-family dwellings, accessory buildings, and so forth there that we appreciate. The top one will be your county only. Cindy, I think I get these to you every month. If I don't, I will get them to you. I'll make sure you get this report also. One more down will show us the numbers chart. That is from 1990. I thought it went from 83, but we've had to drop some off. If you look at those, we're out there 2 on the end. Of the high, we may, like I say, I think we're going to exceed the 294 by quite a ways this time. Maybe even on a time high of the 337 back in 95. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Engineering department. Thank you, sir.
Steve.
Good morning, Commissioners. It's always a pleasure to be with you. The list lengthwise continues to stay about the same, but some items have been taken off and some items have been added. I just want to talk on the highlighted items unless you want to ask me a question about anything that's on the list or anything that's on Curtis's list. Our budget's on track. Cane Springs Road, Preston is through with all that chipping. I'm still waiting to get a little bit of fencing finished. Please give me a prison fencing crew. They haven't been operable for quite a while, and I got some work for them to do.
Why?
Why haven't they been operable? Well, I hear from law enforcement that they don't have enough deputies to run the crew.
Yeah, I know right after the fair, they disbanded it again.
That was, yeah, they can always do for the fair, but we need to build fences.
Yeah.
So whatever you can do would be appreciated.
Got one new person coming on today in correction, so hopefully that will help.
I promised Vandenbergs I'd get some fencing done on their last piece down at exit 51 where the belt route leaves the freeway. I'm actually hiring a fencer to do that fencing. That's all ready to be done. They should be finished with that in about 2 weeks. RS 2477, the State Attorney General has been in our building upstairs not 2 weeks ago, but prior to that for about a week, still continuing to take depositions. I guess you're following the Kane County circumstance quite well. Judge Wallops, I read in the paper this morning, has quashed all of the SUA requests for depositions from everybody, and they want to take he will drive all of the 15 bellwether roads that they've titled them now, but that's moving along.
How are we participating in that? Any?
They aren't looking at any roads in our county right now, just those 15 that Kane County has as a test case.
Steve, how many depositions do you think we have left that haven't been taken by?
We've got probably another 15 witnesses. When they lowered the age from 70 to 60, that brought a few more into the picture. But any we can find that are credible, we'll use. You don't hear about that happening, but it's continuing to happening on the AG's part. Sunset Subdivision, Dan Bremer is now the president of the Homeowners Association. There's quite a process to get an application for an assessment area so we can get something done with that construction. That application has been written. I've given it to Jonathan to look at to see what it cost us to advertise and notify the 58 homeowners out there. There's about a 4-month lengthy process that the legislature has set up to give anyone involved in a assessment area where they're going to have a tax implication after we get the improvements made to give them more time to respond up front as to whether they want it or not. A new thing we used to go by, if we had a majority, we had a project with the new assessment stuff, 40% opposed can kill a project. So that's where we are. If you want to come talk timeline, any of that kind of stuff, be happy to do that individually in my office. I guess the really good news this morning is we've spent the $2.5 million totally that the NRCS gave us on the EWP money for Parowan. We're substantially completed at the forebay. We're substantially completed on the work we did in the flood channel for Parowan City. So let her come if the flood wants to come. Parowan's protected. They've got water. And but we'll continue to do a lot more with hopefully over the next 5 years with the $17 million coming with the watershed operations and flood prevention money. Paraguna does have $1 million. We're looking to get something done there now, hopefully a detention basin and help that irrigation structure at the mouth of Little Creek, and maybe do something in Red Creek also. Forest Service, 2 bridges. We were in a meeting about a month ago. You heard what I heard on the bridges. They have the design completed, but I haven't seen them. They haven't given me the hard copies or anything yet, so we haven't moved any farther on that yet. We have a significant thing happening. If you're familiar with the upper basin on Canara Mountain, that road is a county road. It goes all the way to the Kolob Reservoir. In the 60s, when we built that reservoir, I used to come home in a station wagon over that. The Ents, as we thought, had locked their gates. Well, it's not the Ents property anymore. It's a conglomerate that I gave Commissioner Adams the name and number of the guy that's trying to acquire the property. I guess they have already. They've bought a bunch of CV property. They bought 1,700 acres from Howard Jones. They bought the Entz property. It appears that they're putting together a huge hunting conglomerate, and they locked 2 gates where we've always gone through to the Washington County line. In my humble opinion, we can't ignore that. We need to get with Washington County and make a joint stand. That road has always been open, and I think it should continue to be open. I don't know where you are, Alma, with
think we need to
Washington County on that.
Talked with Victor Iverson, and he said they were definitely opposed to the gates, and we haven't gone any further than that. But somebody said they told Washington County to pound sand, so
I did.
not cool. I guess
That's what I was told.
That's right. So anyway, let's get a meeting set up with Washington County and get some kind of strategy.
Okay. I've got the maps here today. If you want to look at the
I'd like to look at it.
location, I can leave those with you, Commissioner.
I'd like to look at it. Yeah.
Speaking of roads being hard to deal with, I don't know if we're any farther along with the Eagle Gate people at the freeway. Mike, is that eminent domain moving forward?
I just received a letter back from those property owners telling us the same thing that I guess you heard on the Upper Basin Road.
Okay.
We'll have to proceed through the judicial system for that.
Let me know if there's anything I can do.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Adams and I met with some homeowners in the Red Canyon subdivision. Now there's 2 Red Canyon subdivisions. One's Red Canyon Estates, and that's between Summit and Parowan on the west side of the Highway 91. This one's on the east side of the Highway 91, up in the foothills that Floyd Rigby did in 1972. They did nothing with the roads. There's significant cabins up there now, and Preston and I rode those roads last week, and he thinks we need a packed train of mules to get in and out of some of those cabins. They're in pretty rough shape, Commissioner. So I've got some ideas of what maybe we could do on a short-term basis there to help them, but I don't think we could ever possibly get an assessment area there because there's not enough. There's 89 lots and 32 cabins.
They're not dedicated county roads, and the meeting was to talk about an assessment area, or that's the option we gave them. I did have a call the other day from a lady that said that they didn't even have a way out if there was a fire, and so I did have Preston and Steve look at that to see if we could fix at least a place so they would have a fire escape or a flood escape also. But other than that, we're really not going to do anything without an assessment area because they're not dedicated county roads.
Commissioner, actually, we did accept them through the planning process at subdivision level, but they are not brought up to a county standard. That's more what.
Right, yeah, that's the better way to state it. Yeah, they haven't been brought up to our standards, so we're not going to maintain them. Yeah.
Cedar Valley Belt Route, that's Horrocks are our consultant there. They have a story map on our website now. Anybody that's along that route can go in and make comments about alternative alignments. We have an important meeting this Thursday, Dale, at 9 o'clock, starting in my office. Sitla will be there. We have notified Elsie. She's responded positively back. UDOT and the railroad will be there, so that's an important meeting. We want to talk about whether we cross the tracks at 5,300 or 5,700. We did apply for NRCS money. That's to the Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant on the North Leg of Coal Creek. Lance Smith told me he thinks that's going to be approved, but we haven't heard anything definite on that yet. The FEMA 09 flood preliminary update, which we hoped was coming. Several Cedar City filed an appeal in conjunction with the parks at Deer Hollow because of how it affected that subdivision and how it affected the Cedar City Airport, and so that's has not become effective yet. Only 3 other items, Commissioners. South Central, if you can believe it, is putting fiber optics all over the Escalante Desert. They have 10 phases of that project. Just for the filing fees for the encroachment permits, not the bonding fees that covers the construction, just the filing fees the county gets to keep, was $65,000. So that's a big thing. I don't know. South Central says they've got the money to do it, and so they're going to do it. We have on the Lake Road 8 deeds necessary, 7 I have, but we need to do some fencing there. So again, please help me with the prison crew. And Commissioner, I don't know if Adams, I don't know if you had a chance to talk yet with Chairman, Mr. Blake. Mike Coronado is calling me back. Dale's on board with that. You know what I'm talking about. He just wondered if the commissioners were all together so he could start shortening his wheel lines. And I said, I don't think yet, but I'll get back to you when I hear.
Let's visit at noon. I don't think, yeah. I'll bring him up to speed on that at noon.
Okay, okay. You know, I am assuming Curtis has spent the last 6 months in the gravel pit at the Parowan City here. We're continuing that. We're going to stay there. I think it's the best place we can keep that machine. To build some retention. With all the work we've done, we haven't built any retention, and we'd like to build a lot of retention so we don't have a big channel all the way to the freeway. UDOT has been short on they've been tall on talk and short on walk as far as producing trucks that would haul material away from there. They still need material on 143, and Brian Head City has asked if they could place the material for time being in our gravel pit at 4th North, the racetrack, so that in 2 years when we're back there and crushing again, they could piggyback on our crushing. Told them we'd have to discuss that, but that's a new item on the agenda that Brian Head wants to propose to us.
Is this the year to trade track holes?
No, we got a brand new one a year ago.
Okay, so we're on a 2-year.
Or 3. But we got an old truck. We need to paint it, and we need to get an operator for it so Curtis can be twice as effective. And when I talk to you tomorrow at 9:30 on my budget, I'm going to talk to you about another personnel for that truck. Okay?
Oh, the fiber optic out in Burl Valley, is that centrally assessed, Cindy?
Is it what?
The fiber optics itself is, but the telecommunications is, but the buildings themselves are locally assessed.
So the new fiber line,
Who owns the fiber line?
who owns it?
South Central.
So part of that's centrally assessed and part of it's locally assessed.
To keep it confusing.
Crazy rules.
Anything else? Thank you.
Well, Steve, while you're right there, we've also been working with Steve, the planning, and then Sheriff's been working together, just quick report. As far as mentioning railroad crossings, we've identified 4.
Just get me a copy back
You know,
of it.
we're gonna have to narrow that down to 2, and then we're looking at across 57, so we've identified 4 that are possible.
None of which come from Cedar.
None,
We only need 2.
we're all out in county, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Road Department. Come on down, Preston.
What is it?
Come on down.
The price is never right, but come on down. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, good morning. So first I just got stuff that we finished this summer. Patching, we pretty much got all the roads patched. Hopefully we'll make it through the winter with that. We chipped Cane Springs Road and Fifetown. Both of them were new surfaces. That's about 4 miles
Preston, who owns Fifetown?
as far as the
A county road?
county, yeah.
We did just the main road, and then the spurs are still,
Just the
That-
yeah,
it's
it's about
such an
just over a
improvement.
mile or just under a mile.
stop the dust. It was so terrible there.
That's been one that's always a burr on our side for grading from 20 years it sounds like. So yeah, that one's nice to be done.
The same thing as Red Canyon subdivision. It was accepted through the plats, but it's never been brought up to a county standard, right? Except for what you have paid. It's never been brought to a county standard in order to maintain.
Yeah. Let's see. Then we chipped about another 25 miles, around 25 miles, maybe a little bit more of just roads in Parowan, Burl, and Cedar Valley. Got everything fogged that we needed to fog. And then we finished exit 75, and now they've got it paved and looked good this morning. Looks
That's
a lot
awesome.
safer than it was.
Miles on that Jones Road out to Burl.
On the Burl Highway, we did 7 miles out there.
Isn't that the one we refer to as Jones Road, Melma?
Pardon?
Is that the Jones Road we call?
I'm,
So
Burl.
Burl Highway was already chipped. We just re-chipped it this year.
haven't done any new roads out there, but just chipping.
No,
Jones Road actually takes off, I think, I understood you're gonna do something on that, another project that we're working with. It takes off from the county road, sheds there and goes down past
So-
Hastings and then.
yeah. Well, they call that the Hart Road. At least that's what I call it, or been told it's called as the Hart Road. But that's the one that's in the
The plan.
That's on the radar to start working on that one.
That's the one that's north of Newcastle. And then we did from 18 into the Holt property line 2 or 3 years ago, and that one's called the
I want us to call that the Jones Road, but
That's the Gentry Road.
Gentry.
That's the we did the Gentry Road, and the Joneses. I talked to them, and they said we're happy with the condition of our roads. We don't necessarily want chip seal, and so.
Dale, to answer your question, nothing's been done on the Jones Road.
Okay.
but that's the Hart Road, right?
South
No.
of 56.
No, the Jones Road is back by the Gentry Road, west of the dairy, and it runs north and south.
Okay.
So intersects.
Yeah, that'd be like 1,000.
But the Jones,
Exactly.
but the Jones is on your radar, right?
The Jones one hasn't been on, not yet. But there's a lot on our radar, I guess. You get on there.
So you've added, someplace on the list is to do from the top of, where the pavement stops on top of the hill going south towards Colog.
Yep. That's even wrote down on my list,
Yeah.
if that makes you feel better.
Up.
But it's down the road. It takes quite a while to get them. So, currently what we're working on is the Rollo Lane, which we got all the gravel there. It's just a matter of the spring. Will probably be 3 or 4 days, and we'll be able to chip it. When we're done with this, remove some culverts on Bulldog Road that were collapsing, and just patched over them. Striping. We've striped some roads out in Burl, Newcastle, Main Street we striped, and then the Burl Highway part that we chipped. Today we actually we're moving out to Vandenberg and gonna start back on working on the subgrade there.
What's the proposed date for chip sealing that?
So we should be able to do the 2 miles we got done last year. This year with our, we'll crush our gravel, hopefully around Christmas, or get that going. And then we'll get that ready. 2 miles of it and chip it next spring is the plan. It'll stop just before you get to 7,700, right at the intersection. And 7,700, the first mile and a half is also on the radar to chip, but it won't get done next year.
From 56
From
coming
56 coming down.
It's been graded twice in the past month. Last time was halfway through this rain, and now we've got puddles, holes about that deep, about that big, all the way through it.
Yeah, I can imagine it looks pretty good.
It doesn't stay.
But it is, it's on the list, so. And I guess that's about all I got.
Steve, are you gonna crush any additional gravel and other than Preston's?
Commissioner, the crushing we wanna do this year and next, put both budgets at the same location, is in Wichita, 7.5 acres we just acquired from the city in preparation for all this Vandenberg Bumblebee Road and the Sunset subdivision, so that material could be used.
And that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
New city pit.
And then the gravel that we've crushed at our yard, that's been really handy for making these, just speeding up these jobs like Five Town, Rollo Lane. There's some other ones out there that are close that will get. You can get them, take you a week to get them instead of a month, you know, with it right there. So anyway, that's what I got.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Landfill.
He's been really
Sir?
gravel. Source is close. It's just been amazing. Thank you, Bruce.
First one is this grid report. This just shows 2018 to actually yesterday, not today, and it shows 2017 through 10/7 and 2016. And you notice there that the tonnage is down just barely, down 1,000 ton from last year. In the MSW, and then quite a bit in the C&D. That's the class 4, would be the C&D pit, and it's down. Oh, actually, it's up. Never mind. So that just gives a snapshot of the materials that we've taken in for the last 3 years, and them fees that are assessed with that are just those are commercial fees only. The money number that you see there isn't what we assess the public with.
Appreciate that.
So it just gives us a quick snapshot of showing you how busy we are.
How do they account for a reduction in tonnage, Bruce, with all the
I don't know.
stuff that's going on?
So
Put it in the wash
I
someplace?
wanted to say that it was that I've had Jared come and look at our computers to see if we're even accurate, because it seems like we're busier, but our tonnages are less. We're picking up, I counted last night, 85 more cans than we were a year ago, and we're still down. So as a total, the city from last year to this year, Cedar City is down 1,000 ton hauling in from what they were last year, and it's actually up quite a bit from 2016.
But the class 4 is up significantly, though.
What's that?
The class 4 is up significantly.
class
from
4
last
is up.
year,
But that's C&D. And Enoch City is up 25 ton, and Iron County is down 200 ton from what they were last year. It doesn't make sense where we got more cans out. And I talked to Jeff, and he has more cans out than he did before. With building going up, you'd think that the class 1 pit would have more trash, but
Seems like it.
yeah. I've got Jared and PC Scales looking to see if they can find any anomalies. I went through it and couldn't find any.
How often do you have to certify the scales?
Once a year. They're done.
So they're current.
Yeah. Huh? They're current, yeah. They're current. Our budget looks good, with the exception of I just missed how many cans I'd need for 2018. I talked with Dan, I may have to buy a few more and up that but we'd still be okay. Just that one line item would be under, but the rest of it, we'd still be in the black. Our new garbage truck that we ordered should be here this week. None too soon either, I might add.
Freightliner?
Peterbilt. It's a Peterbilt. It's a
One was
cab
Freightliner.
over, huh?
The last one was Freightliner?
Yeah, but they don't make a Freightliner with a cab over, because this is a side load.
Oh.
Side load garbage truck. It's a Peterbilt truck with a Labrie body. Cedar City got theirs, and we had the training last Tuesday with our mechanics and their mechanic. We got the Bryan Head local agreement done, and that was with them just picking a few cans up for us, just to make sure everything was right. They, rather than us go clear up there, they're going to come down with a full truck and pick up a few cans for us. We had a pretty good fire in the C&D pit. It's out and everything's contained, but it took us 4 days, I want to say, to get out. I don't know what started. It started in the night. We got a call and went out there.
Factor fire.
No, this was separate. We've had 4 fires since then. But this one was significant. Usually they're pretty small.
Placed that compactor yet?
That's actually the next item.
I'm sorry.
We want to move forward with a D6 dozer to replace that compactor. It's actually sitting in the Parowan pit right now. It's and I've been talking to Alma about that. And so we'll replace it with a dozer and a loader. We got enough insurance money to take care of both. And most of our equipment's working well. Like I said, we got some breakdowns on the garbage trucks, but hopefully we'll be able to get our new truck here Wednesday is what I'm hoping. Any questions?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assessor's office.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning. Good morning.
The assessor's office is busy as always. We are on track for our budget. We'll finish the year probably a little bit below budget on a couple of items. Pictometry, which you funded last year and will fund again because we did a contract, is working well for us. We're also sharing that with some other departments, getting some good feedback. It hasn't spread as much as we would like for everyone to be able to use that technology, but I am getting some good feedback from the departments who are using it a little bit. I don't know. Sent it to you, but I haven't heard anything back. But it's just higher quality aerial photography with some.
How far west did that contract go?
We just did the I-15 corridor because it's so expensive. They will do as much as we want, but we did more of the populated areas, basically I-15 corridor and Cedar Mountain,
60 for
Bryan
that
Head.
contract?
Yeah, no, it was like 100.
100?
Yeah. It's 50 a year, 54 a year.
Where'd I get 60 from? Is that an old number?
That was what we talked about 2 or 3 years ago. It was going to be 60.
I'm that far behind.
That's okay.
Oh, well, that figure was in my mind too, because that's the one we decided when we wouldn't go, it was going to be about 60.
Yeah. But it's been a really good program, and we'll talk about it tomorrow in my budget. But BOE, we just finished last week. We had 207 appeals. Worked pretty closely with Carrie and the auditor's office and Dan, and appreciate their help with that. Like I said, 207 is down quite a bit from the high. Seems like in an increasing market we have less appeals, I think partially because our lien date of January 1st, by the time people get their valuation notices the end of July and we schedule those appointments in September, they look back and go, yeah, my neighbor did just sell. In fact, the county might be a little low, but I think it's just because of the timing, because in an appreciating market, like I said, we're where we are at the January 1st deadline, or lien date, we see less appeals, but it was a good process. Thank you for helping budget for a hearing officer. It does make it a lot smoother process, separates you from some of the politics of that, and helps us work through, just because the appraisers can work through a commercial property pretty quickly, and we can talk about cap rates and things without having to spend a bunch of time educating. Not that you wouldn't want to come, and as I've said, you're all welcome to come at any time and sit in on our Board of Equalization hearings. As Chad said in his report, we are busy. The building permits are up, and for every building permit that we get, we then have to assess that every year, so it compounds for our office. But we're busy. It seemed like there used to kind of be an ebb and flow, and we'd have a busy time and then kind of would slow down and we could catch our breath again, but it never seems to ebb anymore. It just flows. So but we're getting through it. I have a really, really good staff, and working hard. Young staff haven't been in the office for a long time, most of them, but they're working out well. Not as the assessor, but UAC, I'll just make a quick report. I sent you all, I don't know if you get those directly from UAC, but I forwarded the agenda for the legislative committee meeting on Wednesday, so they're getting geared up for start of legislation. They did not have an interim committee meeting at the legislature in September, but they will have one next week in October. So we're talking about a bunch of stuff that's coming down. So if you guys want to review that and reach out to either Lincoln or myself, or come to Salt Lake or listen on the phone, whatever. And then our UAC conference in November, we've changed the format of that a little bit. Instead of being still 2 days over 3 days, a half day Wednesday, all day Thursday, and half a day Friday, we've compressed that to all day Thursday and all day Friday, with the banquet Friday night. Wednesday is newly elected officials training, so I think John reached out to our newly elected after November to make sure they all know they're welcome to go to that. And then the regular UAC conference, UAC waives the fee for any newly elected officials that want to come to those, so I will get you that information. They'd like you to still register just so they kind of have a count, but they waive the fee. So
I couldn't find a link for them to register other than just verbally telling you, or I mean, is there a
Did you not register? Or for the newly elected? Oh,
is that more of a verbal?
don't know if there is a link to that, but I told them we would probably have 4 from Iron County. So, and I will also, our engineer left, but yes, please help him get whatever he needs for those roads. It's starting to cause a problem sometimes in my office when the county buys property or takes a road out of something, and then part of that agreement is that they're going to replace fences, and it takes 2 years to get the fences. Then they're not compliant with their green belt, and it causes problems for me to say, I'm going to make an exception for you, Vandenbergs, because the county's not upholding their requirement to have the fences back. So I'm going to allow you to not be in compliance with Greenbelt when I'm making everyone else in the county be in compliance. So any help that you can put towards helping the engineer get those fences up, it does trickle down to other offices.
And I did reach out this morning already, and I'll follow up on that.
Okay.
I fired off an email a few minutes ago, so.
Thank you.
I'll have to let you know on
So,
that.
any questions?
Maybe you can.
You get to
No.
listen to me twice more today, sorry, so I'll make this one brief.
Mr. Auditor. To round out department reports for today.
I'll be quick. I know that there's a lot going. Some of the stuff I have to report you guys know a lot about already, so I'll be fairly quick. We had an audit committee meeting on August 23rd. Alma is on the audit committee and was there. Hinton Burdick reported. Mike
Spilker,
one of the partners in Hinton Burdick, came and reported. That went well. After he left, we talked about we're on the end of our this finished the last of our contract with Hinton Burdick. The audit committee decided that we're going to go ahead and put that out to RFP. We will let Hinton Burdick bid, although I've already told them that we will handicap their, if they decide to bid, just the fact we've used them for 6 straight years, 2 cycles of a 3-year contract, that will obviously factor into our decision, but you never know. They may be the only ones that bid for it. I kind of doubt it, or they may come in really cheap, but I also doubt that. So anyways, I've told them if they, given that, transparency up front, if they still want to bid, then we'll let them bid. But we've talked about maybe splitting that, and we'll talk further in my budget hearing about splitting the year-end accounting statement of our CAFR from the audit. So we're looking at some things there. And anyways, we had a good, this was our first meeting with the audit committee. It was really good. We had Dave Harris from the community there, Alma, Nicole, and myself. That's it.
Yeah.
So it was good. It was a real good meeting, and we'll continue to meet probably 3 or 4 times a year with the audit committee as we engage the external audit and as we have a report on the external audit, and then we'll probably meet to do the same thing for an internal audit as well, assuming we can kind of get that figured out. Abatements and BOE, this is a busy time of the year, as you know, and Miss Cindy just spoke about Board of Equalization. That's actually a function of my office, and we engage. And it's funny because I talked to the person that we hire, and in this case we hire 2. That way, if there's a conflict, because these are appraisers, commercial appraisers that are for hire, and sometimes it may be that they would have a conflict, and so we always engage 2, and we have one kind of go for a day or 2, and then the other one go for a day or 2. They did a great job. As I talk with them, some of the smaller counties, the commissioners themselves will actually hear it, and I can imagine the political situation that kind of puts you in. And so the way we do it is really good. They're totally impartial. They have the assessor on one side making their argument. The property owner is able to make their argument, and the hearing officer they're not vested in it. They can just give an objective opinion, and it's really good. Obviously, sometimes it can get kind of tense, and I gotta compliment. This is not BS. This is not fluff. Cindy's people are really good. I'm really impressed, especially her new hires. Just professional. Keep emotion out of stuff. They come prepared. Gene didn't really sit in on the BOE hearings in the past. I figure where it's a function of my office, it's my duty. So I just usually sit there and I'm fly on the wall, and I rarely comment unless things get out of hand, which I did comment in one of them. Anyways, but it's a good process. It's a good thing that a lot of people don't like property tax, and this gives people a voice to be able to say, you're treating me unfairly. And in most cases where if they have a case, the hearing officer will give allowance for that. Cindy doesn't have an army of appraisers to go in and look really closely at every single property. They have to take a approach where they look at the subdivision as a whole, and then they adjust things by percentages. But this gives somebody to be able to come in and say, that's not right. You didn't take this and this and this into account. So anyways, we have good people. I just wanted to say that. Also, abatements. Both of these things will be presented. Carrie's going to come in and present the BOE results and let you guys vote on that. And Christine, she works on it year-round, but but this is where the rubber meets the road, where we actually adjust the tax roll for abatements, and we'll do that in this meeting as well. She does a lot of work, and I don't think people realize the amount of stuff that she has to deal with one-on-one. There is just a huge workload of the veterans and the blind, and there's different programs if you have low income and things like that you can get a relief on your taxes. Anyway, she'll present that today too. We've just had those deadlines expire. So finally, State Auditor's Office will be on site in November. I've talked with him. We have a new deputy state auditor, Seth Ovison, who's over the counties. He used to be a county auditor at Carbon County, clerk auditor. Good guy. I have a good relationship with him. I've been on the phone with him. They're not coming on site to do an audit, and I've clarified that. They're going to be visiting with all the counties. They're coming to basically do interviews and training. He does want to speak with the commissioners. They're looking at our policies. The whole focus of this is on internal controls. It is in state code that the state auditor will advise and counsel the counties, the legislative body whose responsibility it is to have good internal controls. So the state auditor's office is focusing on that. And since Seth lives in Cedar now, he said, I'm going to pick you guys first, and you're going to be my guinea pigs. So he'll be here. I have a bunch of information that he's requested. I'm getting back to him, and then he'll be here on site. We're currently working budget hearings in the next couple of weeks, trying to get ready to put together a tentative budget that's due by state code by November 1st. I do have budgets submitted for most of the departments, and we will be working through those in the next couple of weeks. Also preparing a final adjustment of the current 2018 budget. Last but not least, dang it, Chad's gone. I don't think we fixed our fly problem. Right. If you walk around upstairs and you look in these lights, which are sealed from the bottom, the only access into these lights is from above, and some of them have 30, 40, 50 flies in them. I think we've got to address, and not to mention there's flies in the offices and in the hallways and stuff like that. Before it was a problem, and I know when they did the construction on the building, they sealed a large gap. But I think given the time of year as it's starting to get cooler, maybe, I don't know if it's seasonal, but there's got to be some sort of gap still up there. Mm-hmm. These lights are just getting full of flies, and we've been here. We know when we've been here to. So, anyways, just something to point out. Sorry to go there in the meeting to stoop to that level, but I think we have an issue. So
it is a seasonal thing, and it's been a bad fly year because the temperatures remain so warm, but cool enough.
But somehow they're still getting into the attic again. That's what's crazy.
Well, they're up. They're upstairs. They're not down.
Yeah, it's an upstairs thing.
Dominantly.
The more north you go in the building, the
worse.
The worse they are. In my office, the lights that are above August, who sits at the north end, they're full, and then the farther you get to the south, the less there are. But you just walk around and see for a second when you get a minute. If you, as long as you don't have any, you're not planning on eating anytime soon. That's my report. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
As always. All right, it's just a little bit after 10. We'll take a break for just a few minutes. Make sure that we've got everything in place to move on with our 10 o'clock calendar. Be break for just a second.
Read. Will you pass that on?
nay are back. So move on with agenda item number 1. We have a public hearing and possible approval for a proposed zone change from agriculture 20, A20 to industrial. This is 7.23 acres located between Old Highway 91 and I-15, approximately 3603 west, Old Highway 91 in Cedar City, south 1/2, north 1/4, section 32, T36 south, excuse me, range 11 west, Salt Lake Base Meridian. Iron County Planning Commission recommendation for approval. The applicant is Jeff Middleton and BRAF Development. So the chair will declare the public hearing open.
Let me do just a brief introduction. Good morning, Commissioners. This is a recommended zone change from the Planning Commission that is before you for a public hearing. And the Planning Commission has evaluated all of the criteria for zone changes and has recommended to approve this zone change. This is a vicinity map. The property is located right there where the star is, right on I-15. Let me zoom in just a little bit to show you the area. There's a little piece of property that runs right between the interstate right here and the frontage road as it goes over. This is the property that Jeff Middleton's sawmill now sits on. And so it's a little 7.23 acres tucked right there in between the interstate and the frontage road. And currently it's zoned A20. This is a zoning map of the county. This property, this is the city boundary right here. We've coordinated with the city, and I'll talk a little bit about what their thoughts are. And of course, anything that's adjacent to the city and that's in the annexation expansion area of a municipality, we coordinate with them on any land use for zoning or subdivision. The difference between a zoning request and a subdivision application in that growth area of the city is that for a subdivision, they're required to petition annexation to the city if they are adjacent to the city or if they're close enough to the city that they could annex. Our philosophy has always been in the county that growth should occur in the cities as it expands out. This is an area that fits into that, but because they're not subdividing, a zone change simply is an opportunity for the city to comment on that. And so I'll...
Talking about the red shaded area?
Yes. Yep. This area that's in this little piece right here between this is Old Highway 91 that goes over the overpass right here over I-15, and then here's I-15. And so it's a part of this larger parcel right here that's owned by the Middletons. They own 4 parcels here. They're in the process of doing a lot line adjustment to reconfigure so that this lot is a separate piece. Even though it's physically separated from this larger piece, it's part of the same parcel. And so they're going to do a lot line adjustment where they have 4 parcels now. They'll still end up with 4 parcels. They'll just move this lot line right here down and connect this parcel with this parcel, and it'll be this all. So they'll end up with a separate parcel for the 7.32 acres.
Separate or all
it'll be adjacent to this currently zoned industrial property right here. So this is R5 right now in the county. This is A20, the white, and then this is about 15 acres right here that's zoned industrial currently, where the Middleton, the sawmill and the plant and everything is. So, oh yeah, the color on this map doesn't come very. It looks like our R5. You're right. It's R1 in Hamilton Fort area here. Thanks, Chad. And then the city boundary, of course, is this stuff up here. This is the new development that they're seeing all the new homes built in, Eagle Point, and then the city boundary is right here. Let's see. So here's a even more zoomed in parcel or a map so that you can see the property itself, which is the red parcel. This is a copy of the Cedar City general plan. So you can see that this is the property right here that we're talking about, this little green piece. Their general plan calls for that to be open space, nature, or open space is what they call it. So their comment was that it's really not designed in their general plan to be industrial or commercial. This pink stuff that's right adjacent to it on both sides of the interstate and this red, those are both highway service and commercial land use areas in their general plan. And so their expression was simply that, yeah, it doesn't conform with our general plan, but as long as it's not something that's really obtrusive, it's an entrance to the Cedar City, we're not ready to annex it at this time. They haven't petitioned annexation, it's not a requirement. They recognize that there's already existing industrial there, but they are just concerned about what that might look like coming into the city. And so they recognize that it's not their decision, but they are, have expressed that much interest in that being open space rather than being industrial, according to what their general plan calls for. This is the criteria. You've seen this in the policy for rezoning. These are the things that the county, I know you can't read that very well, but all of the things that the planning commission looks at, and the things that you would consider when you look at a rezone in terms of drainage, water, sewer, adequate services, all of the things will be there according to what's being planned and what's being desired there. And then this is just kind of a summary of some of the things that are related to that, and the things that the Planning Commission looked at as they evaluated that. So I'll just leave that up and go to the public hearing, and then can answer any questions.
Cindy.
They have an interested buyer that wants to build a building, large building, and build like manufactured homes, where they build the structures in the building under a controlled environment, and then they ship them out, put them on a trailer and move them out. So most of the activity that would be occurring there would all be in a large building. But again, we don't zone just for a project. We zone anything that could be industrial, and they could get this rezoned and that sale could go through, and they ended up putting something else. And the Planning Commission considered that, but that's the purpose of why Middleton's interested in carving off that piece and doing the rezone.
Can I ask you a question on the map? They also on the other side. Can you look at the map?
Oh, yeah. Reed's actually driving.
They also own this side right here, don't they? And they're not, but they don't. They're gonna leave that.
Yes, that won't be affected. The parcel that they're going to be adjusting is this parcel right here.
I think that's Bob's family, Cindy, what you're talking.
I don't think this is the same Jeff Middleton. Well, I think it's a different Middleton, though. I don't think it's, yeah, it's a different Middleton.
This side's Bob's, the one you're pointing at, the other side's Ken's family. I think.
They dealt with the same greenbelt issue on, but it doesn't matter. And what, this is just probably my own ignorance.
South Half of Northwest 32.
Segregation and a lot line adjustment. Why do we call it a lot line adjustment when it looks like it's a segregation of a 7 acres? Seems like more than just a lot
Yeah.
line.
We have a provision in our code that allows for the adjusting of lot lines between existing parcels, as long as they meet the zoning requirements, minimum lot sizes, they can meet the frontage and everything. They currently, it's like two pieces of property that are owned by the same person can adjust that common lot line, or even between two people. They can adjust the lot line between those as much as they want, as many times as they want. It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
So in an, okay.
As long as they use the legal lots of record to do it.
As long as they were legal lots to start with, legal lots of record.
And then they can't come up anymore.
Who's the owner, John? Who's the owner?
It's part of that larger
Looks like
parcel.
that's continuing.
There are,
Yeah.
An ownership, so who's the owner?
No, because there's another parcel right adjacent. They own 4 parcels of property right there. So the way we've looked at it is they can move those boundary lines, and as long as there's still 4 parcels in the end, they haven't created a new parcel. The way that the state statute and our code reads is, as long as no new lot is created and that they don't violate any of the zoning minimums, lot sizes, and things like that, they can adjust a common boundary between the lots.
Will not the legal description change?
Yeah, the legal description will change.
Okay, and I
Oh,
thought
I'm
that
sorry, I'm
was,
waiting for a proposal.
like, hints and things like that, did it change?
Honey May.
Not as long as it was a legal, as long as the amount of legal lots that you actually had to start with ends up the same. And the size does not matter, to answer Cindy's original question.
Cause I thought that was the whole thing, if the legal description changed and it's more than a break, you know, if it
Only if a new lot is created, then it's a subdivision. If no new lots are created, then we consider it a lot line adjustment.
but they'll do a new survey, so it's not gonna be just floaty.
We have a legal description of meets and bounds legal description for that 7.23
As long as
acres.
that's not gonna be a less.
No, it's a specific legal for the 7.23 acres.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Any other questions or comments?
Please.
Okay.
Okay.
I will declare the public hearing, excuse me, declare comments in the public hearing closed.
Thanks.
Ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion.
Okay, I move approval for the proposed zone change agriculture 20 to industrial, 7.23 acres located between Old Highway 91 and I-15 at approximately 3603 West Old Highway 91, Cedar City, Utah. The chairman's already read the description. That's my motion.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion is approved.
118.
John, I'm gonna leave this map. You can just toggle back to it when you're ready. This is one for a later discussion.
Oh, okay, very good.
Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, public comments. Remind everyone that we have a 3-minute time limit. Items discussed should not be on the agenda, and no attacks on other people's character, which we don't really have much of a problem with anyway, but I'll throw that out there.
Well, my name is Bill Pressgrove, or William Pressgrove, or whatever you want to call me. I've been in here several times discussing the same issue. It's a smaller part of a bigger issue regarding the table of uses. There's one of the uses that says accessory outdoor or outside storage of flammable and hazardous materials means the outside placement of flammable or hazardous materials which are customary and incidental to the principal use of the property. I would consider a propane tank or a wood pile as being incidental and customary to the use of the property. However, on the table of uses, it's X'd out. It says that I cannot have those things incidental to my property. It has been explained to me that there's another definition that says accessory uses means use customary, incidental to, and on the same parcel as the principal main use. They say that means that you can have those things. Well, it says I can use those things, but it still doesn't say that I can store those things because it is outside storage. I've been also advised that this is not the proper venue for this, that I should be taking it to the Planning and Zoning Committee, but in order to, and it can be verified, in order to get something put on the agenda for that meeting, I have to pay a fee. That means that not only am I paying my taxes to support those people and that commission, but now I have to pay again just to get a one-word change to the table of uses, which would change it to read materials which are not customary and incidental to the primary use of the property. That would mean that because I've got a propane tank and wood pile, I can use those for my personal property, okay? But that does not mean that I can go out and get a 10,000 gallon diesel tank and store it on my property, because it's not customary and incidental to the use of the property. You see? So if it read that which are not customary and incidental to the use of the property, then that would mean that I cannot store these other things that do not belong to making my food and heating my home. You see? And so I just, it's unjust for someone to have to pay a fee to get this item put on the agenda, and you get it put on the agenda. That doesn't mean that it's going to change. They can say, no, we're not going to change it. So where does that leave me out of that fee? And nothing has changed. So that's why I'm appealing to you to take a look at this as the commissioners that are elected officials to govern this stuff, not appointed officials. Thank you.
Thank you. If anybody else with a public comment this morning? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 3. Discussion and possible approval of Transwest Express to acquire an easement for the Transwest Express electric transmission line across land owned by Iron County, located in Iron County. And remind me of your name. I know we've met and talked about this, but.
Good morning. My name is Joe Tippett. I represent the Transwest Express Power Line project and this proposal. Is there would you like me to just describe the proposal briefly?
Yeah, just briefly describe the proposal, what we're asked to take action on this morning.
Sure. The Transwest Express power line is a multi-state power line that's been in development for almost 8 years. It has reached complete permitting approval at the federal level and is now undergoing a phase of acquisition of right-of-way over private property. The power line begins in south central Wyoming and terminates just south of the Hoover Dam in Nevada, right on the Nevada-California border. It travels through Iron County, and there is land that it crosses in the western part of the county, just west of Beryl, between Beryl and Modena, I believe. And this parcel of land is owned.
Wait a minute, Joe. You're saying west of Modena?
West of Beryl.
East of Modena, west of Beryl.
Okay, Beryl.
Beryl. Sorry. You correct my accent when I need it, okay, Commissioner? West of Beryl and east of Modena.
Okay.
It's a parcel of land that the county owns a 2/3 interest in, with 4 other landowners who own the other 1/3 interest. And this parcel, the right-of-way, generally follows the rail line in the area, and it's pretty much parallels it. The right-of-way required for the line is 250 feet wide. On this parcel of land, it will would occupy about 17 acres. It's about 300 feet long, I believe. And there would be 2 towers located on the parcel. The towers would be a guide wire structure. So there would be a central lattice column with 4 guy wires that go out and anchor into the ground. The typical height for those towers in this part of the county would be 120 feet high. So there would be 2 power lines attached to it, not 3. It's a DC line, not an AC line. So if there's any other details you'd like me to describe to you, just please ask.
Or do you have a standard fee that you're paying for right-of-way, or try to? I know you'll have negotiations with different owners, but.
So our policy is to pay 100% of the fee value of the land, even though we're acquiring an easement, which only allows the power line to be located there. It doesn't transfer interest to the power line company. Typical industry practice would be to pay about 80 to 90% of the fee value. but we're paying 100% of the fee value of the land. And our pricing structures just depend on where you are. And what we did is we engaged several appraisal appraisers, and had them develop market evaluation reports for the entire length of the line, including this part of Iron County. And our proposals are based upon the outcomes of those evaluation reports. And it's pretty standard. Our offers in this part of Iron County have all been very identical because the land is very similar. So.
Is it adjacent to the existing corridors that are?
It lies within the corridor, yes. There is a transmission line corridor that follows the rail line through that part of the county.
How many kV?
It's a 500 kV, planned to be 500
DC?
kV line, DC line.
C or AC?
DC. Yep.
And you're trying to purchase property or just easement?
Just easements, yes.
Cindy.
So it's 250 feet wide by 300 feet long?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that construction easement or is that entire?
That's entire.
The 250 because the fall line, is that why it's so wide?
Yes, ma'am.
It seems like an awful wide. And if I read this correctly, so even though your easement is only for the power, if Iron County wanted to put, if we grew and they needed to put in some sort of a underground utilities, they cannot do that under your easement, is that correct?
Well, it depends on which direction. You can cross the easement, obviously.
Can run parallel.
Underground utilities.
Under that and follow that where that easement's already there.
Right, you can't relocate a new utility paralleling the line within the easement. But you can cross the easement with gas lines, water lines, other kinds of power lines, sewer, yes, of course. Yeah, otherwise it just block, any kind of development. That'd be unreasonable.
You can intersect, but you cannot
Parallel.
Is
Right.
this, I didn't see on the map, but that we're paying just for that, but not necessarily paying if it's segregating a property, like if it's along the line or through the middle?
It does transect this parcel. And in some instances, that would, impacts the property to a point where you'd have to take some other kind of evaluation into consideration. For the size of this parcel and in its location, like a lot of other parcels out there, it really doesn't. So it is an opinion, yes. But it's not my opinion or our company's opinion, it's the appraiser's opinion that was hired to, yes. Good questions.
Because this is DC, it does not produce any kind of EMP, correct?
That's correct.
And you're not paying anything extra for the poles, you're just paying the 100% of valuation if it had 1 pole or 20 poles?
Yes, ma'am.
Some industries do pay for poles.
Yes, you're correct. Some industries do. For major large interstate power lines, it's industry standard to pay for every square foot of whether you impact it with a tower, or just hang the line above it, or have an access road there.
Or you pay for that and extra.
In some, not in large interstate power line projects. That would not be standard to pay separate for a tower location on top of the line, for example.
Mr. Pressgrove, what was your acronym?
EMP.
Electromagnetic pulse.
That comes off of AC lines. These are DC lines. They don't produce them.
Thank you.
Well, Joe, did you say 17 acres or I show 1.7? Is that what you said?
Well, the easement itself occupies 17 acres. Let me double check it based on the survey that I submitted.
You say 300 by 250?
So the survey indicates, 17.004 acres and 2,962 linear feet or 180 rods.
Oh, I thought you said you only wanted 250 wide, 300 long.
I'm sorry, it looks like I should have said 3,000 long. Sorry. 3,000 feet long at 250 feet wide.
Different?
Yeah. Apologize. like in elementary math, the decimal point always got me.
Let me ask a question of our deputy attorney. The way this is written, if we approve this, and does that mean we're approving that we would go into negotiations to sell or to
Well, this is
grant an easement?
This is an agreement to purchase the easement.
That's right.
So,
so the amount is already set, right?
Well, that is our offer. If the county wants to, look at that and propose a different offer and based on other data, we're happy to entertain that.
and we haven't been provided the amount. I guess that's what I'm uncomfortable about. Is that in the packet?
Yeah, the
Maybe we
amount's in
have
the
been
agreement.
provided it, and I didn't have it.
It's in the agreement.
In the, okay.
Yeah. Oh, I see. You're asking where is the amount indicated? Is that right?
Yeah, it's in number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these documents consist of
15,100
a purchase contract, which has pricing, which is generally not recorded with a typical private landowner. Given that the county is a public entity, it makes it a little bit different. But then there's an easement document itself, the easement instrument, which doesn't have the pricing in it. And that's typically what you would record.
The recordable document?
Right.
Yeah.
But the consideration that the appraisal recommended was $18,140.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I have that here.
Yeah.
That's
Now
based
that's the amount to Iron County, but so the other undivided interest would.
Yes, sir.
Separate funds, okay.
And we're in separate negotiations with the other 1/3 interest owners.
And this is based on 100% of the fee value,
Yes,
based
sir.
on 2/3 interest that the county owns.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But this is an undivided interest. I guess we could approve it, but it couldn't move forward until you got the permission of the other undivided owners, I would think.
That's a debatable legal position. We're going to try to reach a negotiation with the other landowners.
How do we have an undivided interest in county property? What's up with that?
Probably acquired at a tax sale, I'm assuming.
Yeah. We acquire. I'm glad you brought that up because our next discussion point is going to cover that. But I think Reed had a comment.
I just wanted to mention that I'm not aware that Transwest has acquired a conditional use permit yet. We have worked with them and in planning of it early on, and we're involved. But I would certainly recommend sale contingent upon them going through the conditional use process and acquiring a conditional use permit for the easement power line.
For the whole line in Iron County?
May I respond to that?
Please.
Well, Transwest expresses policy is to obtain a special use permit one way or the other. Some power lines of this size take the position that it isn't necessary because they're FERC regulated, therefore county permit isn't required. That's not our company policy. We've already obtained this kind of permitting in other counties, and we will be applying for that permit here. One of the things that one of the reasons to try and acquire the private right-of-way in advance of the special use permit is for other financing, considerations for the project. So that's why we're applying right now. But yeah, some counties are a little, they're concerned, are you going to come and get a permit? And yeah, the answer is definitely yes. We will be here to, get a permit.
Any other question, comment? Call for motion.
I'm trying to decide how we coordinate with the undivided.
Well, that's the thing about undivided interest. You own it undivided and separately from them, even though we technically own the same ground. It's just like when we acquire interest in the campsites or something, we have a certain percent undivided interest, and we can do with our undivided interest, but that doesn't mean we own.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that seems backwards. If it's an undivided interest, I don't think you can say that this third is mine and this 2/3 is yours.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Interest in everything.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can act without the others. You're saying we can. I don't think we. I don't see how we, if there's an undivided interest, I don't see how we can say, well, this is, we're selling you our third, and
Well,
if we don't have a third, we have an undivided interest in all of it.
I think he,
Sorry.
stated
It's
it
okay.
well, and that it'd be kind of subject to argument on that.
Right.
Um,
I know that with
You have just as much right to use the property as they do.
Right.
so you have a 2/3 interest to the whole thing,
Yeah.
and so you can say you can sell your 2/3 interest in that defined strip, but that's only your 2/3 interest. They still have to contend with the other 1/3 interest.
Yes.
And like he said, that's kind of a separate legal question. But
If you want, you could decide, you want to see you negotiate with the other party before we agree to it. I mean, you could do that if you want, or you could just sign the agreement as is. It's up to you.
What do you recommend?
The decision that you can make. Either way, I mean, if you're worried about the 1/3 interest, if that's important to you,
Well, I think Transwest is, obviously, because I don't think they can move forward, even if though they had a 2/3 permission, I don't think they can move forward.
Our legal advice is that it's possible to move forward with a 2/3 interest.
At what?
But our legal advice is that it is possible
Really?
to move forward. Yes, but
Interesting.
but that's a different question than what is the best way to proceed forward. And our position, the best way is to reach agreement with all interest owners.
Okay.
So from my point of view, Commissioner, I don't know that this is a concern of the county. The county can do with its 2/3 interest as it wants. And
As far as the sale,
can't really
I agree.
can't dictate,
Right.
anything to the other third.
Yeah.
That's Transwest's, matter to cover, and we are in negotiations with the other third. So, and we intend to acquire the same interest from them as from the county.
So basically, that's Transwest's problem. So I move to approve.
Elegant way to say it.
Sorry. I move to approve the Transwest Express acquire an easement for electric transmission line across land owned by Iron County, according to the agreement that has been outlined, parcel E-152-0001-0002-01, that Iron County has a 2/3 interest undivided, for the amount of $18,140, knowing that they have committed to go through our conditional use permit process.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is approved.
Thank you very much.
have you got a business card I can have, and then we can get that agreement to you?
Hey, John, I messed this up. Can we, I'll just fix it after. It just may require some whiteout. It will be signed today, just in a minute. After I fix my,
Had to renumber them.
do you need it before you leave?
B3.
Okay, I didn't think so. No, I just need some whiteout to get rid of my typo, and
Yes, and actually,
but it'll be
the one
done.
that went out was different. Cindy had.
Okay, agenda item number 4 is ordinance 2018-2. This is defining a significant parcel for the purposes of disposing real property, per Utah Code annotated 17-50-312.
Okay.
Assume John's gonna speak to this.
Yeah. Alma raised just a concern on the ordinance number. I'm just going to make sure.
At least the copy I've got, we've got 2018-2 on this agenda.
We had some confusion with another item that Reed will speak to later that needed a resolution, not an ordinance.
Oh, okay, on the,
And it's not a resolution. That's right, which threw our numbers out.
The ordinance number 2018-2 for the planning commission earlier on. So this, you said you were gonna move the numbers, this would be 3.
Yeah.
okay, on my screen here it is 3, John. On the paper it's 2, but on the electronic packet it's 3.
Okay. Okay. All right, so this is ordinance 2018-3. This is pursuant to state law. A while back we had a discussion about this in that 1753-12 subsection 5B. It directs that each county shall by ordinance, define what constitutes a significant parcel of real property and reasonable notice for purposes of disposing of significant parcels. And in visiting with my colleagues around the state, we found that very few of them had actually done this. It was news to them that when I brought it to their attention. Some had defined them by value, and others had defined them by acreage. And one county had a very long description that talked about not being used for active county purposes, essentially, is what it came down to. I was trying to pull this up as we were. So Weber County had defined it as $100,000 or 10 acres. Davis County had defined it as $50,000 or 1 acre. Originally, I had proposed to define it as $5,000 or less in value, and a quarter of an acre in acreage or less, and not be a buildable lot. And that the buildable lot question was a really hard one to precisely define, which gave Mike some concern, and Chad we had a lengthy discussion with Chad about it as well, in that trying to define what buildable means was very tricky. And so because the state gives each county the opportunity to define what a significant parcel is, in that consideration, and I'm open. I've written this ordinance, but we can definitely modify it to what the commissioners feel. But we actually ended on a significant parcel being $10,000 or greater in value, and Iron County has thousands of what I affectionately call junk parcels out in the West Desert that were subdivided in the 60s, that there's an active trade in and that people turn over. We have a surplus property list that people buy parcels on often, and by defining the parcels on that surplus property list in a way that would allow those to be sold without having to come to the commission. The other part of this ordinance is, what do you do if you have a significant parcel? So say in this case it's greater than $10,000 in value. Well, the reasonable notice as defined here is that, and this is per the proposed ordinance, that Iron County shall publish before disposing of a significant parcel, Iron County shall publish in a newspaper of general circulation, the Utah Public Notice website, and the Iron County Courthouse notice of an opportunity for public comment for at least 14 days. And so when persons are interested in parcels that the county acquires that are significant, I think we should have that degree of sunshine, that degree of opportunity, so that we don't favor one person over another. So if I had, my brother-in-law and say, hey, I got 10 acres right next to your development, we can just slide that in. What we want to do is make sure that that's not happening. But at the same time, we do want to facilitate, the county acquires upwards of 100 of these parcels each year, and there are persons that are interested in those, and it allows us to dispose of them. There is no value for the county having to own property because we are exempt and we don't charge ourselves tax. And we don't have any direct value for, say, a Garden Valley Ranchos lot or a Burl Townsite lot. So having said all that, this ordinance simply just defines a significant parcel as being $10,000 or more. And we actually clarified that a little bit too. Significant parcel, let's see, to be a parcel of real property whose assessed value by the Iron County assessor at the time Iron County acquired said parcel to be $10,000 or greater. And I wanted to make sure that our assessor didn't have heartburn with that definition. And I wanted to be clear that we kind of started in a different place on this, but we ended up with just a $10,000 value.
Okay, this defines a significant parcel, and in a way, it also does the inverse of an insignificant.
Correct.
Do we need to have more verbiage as to how we dispose of a insignificant parcel, less than 10,000?
Well, that's a great point. On setting this up, the next agenda item is a specific case, which has kind of driven this forward, and then number 6 is review and possible renewal of an update to the Iron County policy for selling real property dated October 22nd, 1987.
Okay, so that's one.
And because I do agree, I think we need to figure out, and maybe Commissioner Blake, that discussion wants to happen before you entertain selling that other parcel. But I wonder about the ordinance first.
Ordinance that describes how we dispose of the property.
Okay.
Yes. That's part of it. We should.
We should, is what he's saying.
So does that, does item number 6, can we clean, I agree, I think we need to clean that up and make sure that it's a comprehensive ordinance
Okay.
before approving to sell a parcel.
Okay.
And I assume that should be included in this ordinance.
Mm-hmm. We can definitely do that. I mean, we would have to kind of go back and retool. On the screen there is what happened in 1987. And this was specific to tax sale property, but it says, after the regular May tax sale is held, if a parcel of real property does not sell, Iron County shall advertise said parcel of real property again pursuant to the regularly adhered to manner of publication. And then number 2, after the May tax sale and the additional publication, Iron County shall accept individual offers of purchase of the certain parcels of real property for the minimum amount of taxes, penalty, and interest for a period of 2 years. And number 3, if the certain parcels of real property do not sell for the taxes, penalty, and interest during the 2-year period, then after the expiration of said 2-year period, Iron County will accept individual offers to sell said real property for the taxes only. And that had worked for some time. I'm sorry, Dell, it's not in your packet.
Could you go back up to the
yeah.
number 1?
Can you get that on your screen? Yeah.
I can't move it though.
Now, one problem that we have had with this is this doesn't account for the question you had earlier, Dell, was how do we get that property? Well, we don't just acquire properties at tax sale. Sometimes people will deed them to us if they know it's going to tax sale. We acquire them in different ways. And because the only thing on my surplus list historically has been the tax sale parcels, we have these what otherwise would be insignificant parcels, depending on the definition, that we really only have one way to sell, which is to consider them a significant parcel, go through the sunshine, and do it here in the meeting, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there are those that we could probably dispose of without all of that. And that's really the question is where do you want to set the bar for that sunshine, that degree of 14 days and in a public meeting versus having a list that you authorize me to prepare deeds for and sell at a decided price. What we had before didn't contemplate stuff not acquired through tax sale.
So your communication with other clerks indicates that 10,000 is a kind of a standard fee, John?
No, and in fact, Weber County was 100,000 or 10 acres. Davis County was 50,000 or 1 acre. Now those are different counties in Iron County.
Seems high.
Yeah, right.
100,000 is significant to me.
Well, and that would concern me to sell a $100,000 piece of property without going through that sunshine process. That's why I think for Iron County, that's different. Summit County, I'll read it to you. It says real property in public use and includes but is not limited to realty and improvements thereon. Actually, it goes on and on. Basically, not being used by the county is the way they have it. But I didn't like that definition for because of our junk parcel situation.
Well, personally, I feel comfortable with the 10,000, but I think we need to add to this ordinance.
Does it need to be part of this ordinance, do you think?
So just have this one define what a significant parcel is, then have another ordinance to.
Well, yeah, and I'm not opining. I'm just wondering, from a legal perspective, does it need to be an ordinance, or could it be a policy?
I'll read to you from the state code if I can get the pop back.
Can you get it?
We have to have an ordinance, rule, resolution, or regulation.
Well, yeah, and that's talking about the disposal of the definition of a significant parcel, and the notice given. That's very explicit there.
It's also about the disposal and management.
Okay. So by that, then we should include that on this. There is a little hang up for these gentlemen in the back, but you know, sometimes government moves more slowly than the private sector on purpose. But they're ready and eager to move forward in purchasing this parcel, which I would have presumed would have been an insignificant parcel that could have been sold. If we hold it up, that may hold them up. It's okay by me, but I just need to make sure that we're aware of these gentlemen are ready to go.
What's the value of that property?
That is, there is some question.
Value, what's the tax lien on it?
Because it's been owned by Iron County, there has been no value assigned.
But is there a delinquent tax on it? Why we acquired it?
We own it. Oh, well, why did we acquire it?
Yeah, we acquired it via the tax sale. Mm-hmm.
So there's a tax lien on it, supposedly.
Yeah.
Is that what they're offering?
There was going to be some discussion as to what they were offering. They had a comparable sale that they were in the process of, and then Cindy was going to do let me rephrase that. I had spoken with Cindy about just fair market value per acre, and those numbers were significantly different. But
so how do we ensure that we're selling for enough market value to cover the previous tax debt on it?
What we normally do on those is we have our surplus list. That's been thrown out for a while, and so I could try and find this surplus list for you. Actually, just give me 2
I'm only concerned that we ensure that we receive enough value to
pay the tax,
compensate for the delinquent tax.
Right.
But usually that happens when there's no regular offers, if I understand, and then it kind of goes on for a while. Then we would do, according to this old policy, that then we would offer it for just the price of the taxes. But I'm thinking that we need to receive fair market value to be within the law on a parcel that people are interested in.
Yeah. So this discussion started with who's going to pay for an appraisal. And part of the reason I think you don't necessarily want to have everything be a significant parcel is because we'd have to go through the sunshine process. We'd pay more in advertising in the newspaper and an appraisal than we could ever hope to for that. And this is Jim Rushton from Stratham.
Jim Rushton with Stratham Real Estate. Just to give you some information, so I've done a bit of research in figuring this out. So we're under contract on a piece that's very similar to this property for $2,000. The value that's assessed on that piece is $1,000. I've talked to an appraiser, and basically he said that he would do the appraisal for about $2,000, maybe a little less. So didn't seem like it was worth paying $2,000 to do an appraisal on a yeah.
Oh, right.
Are you able to pull that up, John?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen the map, and I've
Talked to Dale and
site
Alma,
visit.
left a message with Mike, but,
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
well, are you pulling that up, John, or you're looking for something else?
am.
Okay, so there's two parcels that are like in a rectangle piece about 40 to 50 feet tall, north to south, by about 700 feet wide. It's a rectangle that's cut into two triangle pieces. There's actually an irrigation canal that runs right through that piece, so there's an easement that's making that, I mean, with setbacks and everything, it's a non-buildable lot. We are currently under contract on the piece to the north. Right now, our plan is that we would pipe that and bury that canal and clean it up so that there's not the willows growing there, and then we would landscape it and keep it clean and looking nice for the neighborhood.
Remind us where it is, we talked.
It's right off of Northfield Road, about 1550 Northfield Road.
See, I gotta go south of here, don't I?
I can't tell where you're at. It's north of the hospital.
Oh, 'cause you're at 1425 north.
You need to go just a little bit north. You're close, but
I gotta go north?
Yeah, 'cause you're at 1425 there.
It's just north of Cedar Park. It's kind of a kitty
okay.
corner across from
1500
Cedar Park.
comes in from the east.
Right
Go,
there. The
right there.
Daniel
Keep going.
Levan Bowers is the piece that we're acquiring, and then the two little parcels to the south. Yeah, those two pieces. The one right here is owned by the county. This one's owned by LJA Construction, which developed this piece. So there's those two parcels right there that we're trying to clean up to with this lighting.
You have the little sliver on the west that just goes to a
right down
point.
the middle of that.
Pardon?
There's an irrigation ditch that runs
Yeah,
right down the middle.
I
of
actually
those
did a
two.
site visit, and yeah. So.
So we're under contract currently on the 5.13 acres, and then on the 1/3 acre that was owned by
LJA
LJA Construction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 0.308 of an acre, and yours is 0.3.
0.38.
0.38, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest to not hold these gentlemen up, that we just use the present ordinances we have, but I think we have to have fair market value, and I don't know. And we don't want to do a $2,000 appraisal on either side.
Well, I talked to another appraiser. He said he won't do it because there's nothing comparable to do it, and so.
Yeah.
The only comparable we have is the one that dovetails with it right next door.
Yeah.
It's basically a mirror image. That's the only thing we have.
I'd be fine with that.
Cindy's is gonna be. Hey, where is the surplus list?
It'll be different a little bit because that's buildable and it's a bigger parcel, so you have some
Oh, okay, just tell me where it is.
the subject parcel for that, because it's so long and skinny, there's, highest and best use, what is highest and best use of that property?
Join with the adjoining.
The adjoining, so, you can see, I don't remember what we talked.
That's it, okay,
pretty
perfect.
significant per acre,
Yep,
cause
thank
it's
you.
nice, developable in the city limits. But I don't know that you could really say that's comparable, I didn't use that, but that'd be your.
Yeah, at their widest point, they're approximately 50 feet and then taper all the way down over a 700-foot length. So it's not even really usable for a sidewalk necessarily, so.
And there's a irrigation ditch going right through the.
Yeah. And we've agreed to bury the irrigation ditch at our cost of tens of thousands of dollars. So, just to clean it up, the fire company and the police and everyone would love us to do it, so.
Sure.
Well, yeah, we've been to all of them and talked to them, and they would be happy to see the willows gone too, so.
So there's extenuating circumstances, but it,
Cindy, does that fee seem reasonable from an assessment standpoint?
I don't know what the fee was.
2,000 is what you suggested, right?
Yeah, we're under contract with the other piece that dovetails for $2,000.
And that's how many acres?
0.308. Your piece is 0.38.
it
Oh,
cleans it up.
agreed. We just want to make sure
And there
we're
is
doing
a
it the right way.
There's a liability standpoint on it, in that, you know, if somebody falls in that ditch or somebody drowns in that ditch, you know, and the county owns it.
Pardon? Okay, I move that we approve the sale of parcel APN B-1180, number 82534 for $2,000 because it's an insignificant parcel. We don't want to, either side does not want to spend the money for an appraisal. It might cost more than the value of the property. And that's my motion.
Well, yeah.
Okay, discussion.
Fine.
Yeah, we can do that.
And I will add to my motion that any cost of this sale will be borne by the buyers.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we've taken care of number 5.
All right. Would you like me to rework this ordinance and bring it back another time?
Yes, that'd be great. If we can just make sure that it's cleaned up and all inclusive.
That's great.
All right. And
So
that
that
actually
looks-
talks about 6 as well.
So that kind of includes 4 and 6.
Okay. And I will not only do that, but maybe seek some feedback before next meeting so that we're on the same page going in there.
Thanks for doing
Excellent.
that. Yeah. Save us a lot of bother in the future.
Well,
So that bumps us forward to number 7, which is ordinance 2018. So this is going to be 4-4, not -3. Ordinance 2018-4, granting an electric utility franchise and general utility easement to Rocky Mountain Power. Reed or John?
Well, Tom Heaton is here. He could speak to it as well, but recall he came the last time we met and gave this structure to us, and so we put Iron County's name on everything, and Mike had a chance to review it, and it was to be brought back for discussion and possible approval.
Any problem with it?
You have no problem?
We have Mike's thumbs up. Okay. Call for a motion.
Move the approval of ordinance number 2018-4, granting an electric utility easement franchise and general utility easement for Rocky Mountain Power, and this is a non-exclusive franchise.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. Moving on to number 8, review and consideration for approval of a property management plan for a 291-acre parcel acquired for a Utah Prairie Dog Conservation easement. This is the one that
Oh, yeah.
I knew that Reed was going to speak to.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. This is the follow-up after acquiring the property. Before we could do anything with the property, we had to prepare the management plan for the property, which is what you have a draft of and has been reviewed. We've written it in conjunction with, in cooperation with the Nature Conservancy, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, DWR, DNR, BLM, and whoever else you want to throw on the list. But it works well. I think it's covers everything we need it to cover, and staff recommends approval of the agreement.
Any discussion? Call for a motion.
I move approval of the property management plan for a 291-acre parcel acquired for Utah Prairie Dog Conservation easement. The parcel being between Parowan and Summit, between Highway 91 and the freeway.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 8 is approved. Item number 9 is requested by the assessor Cindy Bullock for approval to attach unpaid business personal property taxes to real property taxes.
Cindy.
I don't know if this was in your packet, but it's changed since we didn't have commission meeting 2 weeks ago. It's old, but this is the newest. This is just, I don't know if technically that we even need to ask, but just so that you are aware, we are attaching that list for unpaid business personal property. If the owner of the real property is the same as the owner of the personal property, then we attach it similar to the attachment of garbage or something on other unpaid taxes, and they pay it with their real property taxes. So I just need
Have we done this in the past? Is this just an annual?
we do this every year. We didn't used to ask at all, we just did it, but I think it's better if it's in a public meeting and everyone's aware, so that's the list. If it is paid prior to the taxes due, we take it off, so they're not gonna be double paying, but we get a better collection rate if it's attached to the real property than just trying to go out, and it avoids us having to seize real or personal property.
Is this primarily a problem with the Bryan Head?
That's the list.
Oh, duh, you gave it to me.
No.
It's all over
Not
the county.
necessarily just Bryan Head. Not really Bryan Head. It's kind of
A bad old day, it was that way.
Yeah.
all over the place, depending on, to be honest, I think some people do it. They get an extra 6 months. I mean, the penalty and interest apply, but then they just pay all their taxes together in November. I don't know what causes people to pay or not pay their taxes when they're due.
A lot of different.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't do this, Mike?
No.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I'd move the approval to allow the assessor to attach unpaid business personal property taxes to real property tax.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is approved.
Thank you. And I'll state this, if I may.
Yes, please move. We're on to number 10, a proposal for an application process or some type of notification of interested persons when filing a vacancy on a county board.
So this is Cindy Bullock as your, one of your constituents, not as the Iron County assessor. But I think we could do a little better job with the transparency and the way that we fill some of our boards. And I'm not doing this to criticize at all, because I know in positions I've been on, when you've got to fill a board, sometimes you look around and you're like, oh shoot, we forgot who are we going to put on this board? So if there was a mechanism, there may be people, constituents who are interested, who would do a great job, but they don't know that there's a Council on Aging board, or when those terms are up, or how they get to be on that board, or if there's certain criteria to be on the planning and zoning, or if they have some background in water and they might want to be on that, or they've got some, on an ag board. So I would just like to propose some way to even at least put those boards on the website so people know what boards are there and who the members of those boards are. And then not even a formal application, but just some way to say, if you're interested in serving, please reach out, because looking at those boards, and I did attach the list of the boards.
See ya.
And I know there are people in the county who are involved, who want to be involved, and so they're the ones that are probably coming to the meetings anyway, but I think we could just do a little better job reaching out to try to involve other people. So,
Any suggestions on how that might look? I was thinking maybe we could make a place on our website for such a thing.
On the website, you could probably even just do for more information on any of these boards, and do kind of you know, an informal application. Tell us your background, tell us what board you'd be interested in serving on, and then at this point, it would probably go to you, but it could be even, then you could redirect it.
distribute it,
If it's
yeah.
someone that wants to help with CJC, you could forward that to Stephanie, and she could follow up and at least say, hey, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're welcome to come to our board meetings, even though we don't have a vacancy right now. We'd love to have you involved. We don't fill that, or the county doesn't fill that. That's made up by our board of directors, and these are the criteria that we have. Because, you know, there are different requirements depending on which boards and how they're funded. I know Stephanie has a pretty strict rules of how those are filled. And, you know, the Water Conservancy, those are different governmental agencies and different things, but yet maybe Council on Aging or the Bookmobile, or, you know, and as we look at those, we're not very diverse in any of our boards, quite frankly. We are not diverse at all in any of those boards, and I just think if you were reaching out, maybe we could spread the love a little bit.
I think that's good advice.
So that's all.
I do too. When I read this, I thought, boy, why didn't we think of this long ago? So thank you, Cindy. Yeah.
And I really do think that now that you've got an IT person who is really involved in making that website a little more, I don't know, active, then we could use some of that.
Dave has been really good to work with.
That's all. No,
And this is,
just
you know, I've actually got kind of a list of people who have mentioned to me over the last few months or whatever. I've had several people say, hey, I'm new to the area. What can I do to become more involved? You know, I like to be involved in community things. And so I've jotted down a few names of those people. And I mean, would probably be a great resource to say, hey, check our website. And, you know, there are some opportunities. So.
And as people come in, they come in with different backgrounds and skills, and it would help all of us if we knew who was involved and who wanted to be involved and what background they have. So.
Sure.
It makes the board more effective, have some different views.
Well, and if people want to be involved, they're going to be more, I mean, if you called me and said, hey, Cindy, I'd like you to sit on this board, in the back of my mind, I'd think, are you kidding me? Between the ranch and this, I don't have time to do one more thing. But sure, Dale, I'll do that just because you called. But if you have people who are then reaching out to you, they are going to be more involved because they have an interest.
I think it's good advice.
I think
it'll help us, because a lot of times we have to spend time going, well, who are we going to put there, and let's that, you know, and so this would give us a pool.
Well, there's some different organizations too that not necessarily boards, but form different committees to do different things, and this would be I think this would be a great resource to fill committee spots or whatever, just to offer more involvement from the community.
Thank you.
Okay.
Motion, or
Do we need
make a directive to IT to get that on the.
Would you like me to take that on?
Sure. Is this something? Do we need a motion?
I don't think so.
Are we?
Bring it back as a proposal first.
Right. Let's. Yeah. Great idea. If you'd like to add that to your list,
We'll take it on.
That'd be fantastic. Item number 11. This is Resolution 2018-9, recertification of the County Justice Court.
So this is from the AOC, and I debated whether to even put this on where we had such a long agenda, and I know that they had also CC'd Scott Garrett on this, but this is basically just a typical recertification of the courts that the commissioners need to approve.
Stop.
John, that's just standard procedure, is it not?
Yeah.
I've read through it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a,
Boilerplate.
it's more of a renewal than a, it's just a rolled over certification.
Yeah. Was there any concern on your end?
Okay.
I'd move that we approve the recertification of Iron County Justice Court Resolution number 2018-9 as a standard procedure.
Wait a minute.
Oh, sorry.
So we have 2009 on here on the actual resolution. We have 2018-10.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
So which is correct?
Give me 2 shakes.
Hey, Mike, do we know?
What are you asking?
Is it 9 or 10?
Well, he doesn't know. I don't know. I apologize. We had that confusion with Reed's.
I thought maybe since we'd skipped ahead from 4 to 9.
Well, and I don't have, where they're not matching, I'm not confident that I just want to make sure we've got it right. Well, what happened is we had a resolution that was hey. So on this resolution for the Justice Court, is it number 9 or number 10 after we did everything? Yeah, the resolution on renewing the court. It's 9. Well, yeah, we had the one for Reed that we had to switch it to an ordinance, remember? Okay. Okay. So 8's 9.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. That's what we needed.
So can we just approve it as resolution 9 and then
Before we made the change on
new
on
copy
Reed's.
to reflect that?
And so it's 9 on the agenda, but it's 10 on the paper. But we can correct it. So
So the motion stands.
thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Not sign that one.
Yeah, don't sign that one.
Item number 12, ordinance 2018-2, consideration to hold public hearing and approval of an ordinance of the Board of Iron County Commissioners providing for amendments to the Iron County Resource Management Plan as part of, as part of the Iron County General Plan. Mike.
That ordinance is also wrong. Rather than 2.
How did we get them all so screwed up?
Was this 5? We've done 3 and 4, haven't we? 2, 3, 4. No, we've done 2, 3, 4.
May we take a quick recess for me to get my crap together?
Sure.
All right.
Um,
Well, you know what? We could just give you power to change it, so it's the
Okay.
correct ordinance number.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that one's correct, but yeah, thank you.
okay.
Yeah.
It's an ordinance.
And this one was done, yeah, before. But
Okay. Yeah. Proceed.
Okay. John, you want to pull up that map?
Yes, sir.
This ordinance is in relation to inventoried roadless areas on the Dixie National Forest. If you remember, or maybe you don't remember, I know Alma probably does, but about last of May, Governor Herbert sent a letter out to the PLPCO, the Public Lands Policy Coordination Office, directing them to draft a petition to the Forest Service that would allow a special rule or a special part of the rule to be changed in Utah that would allow more flexibility in dealing with inventoried roadless areas. an inventoried roadless areas is an area designated by Congress previously that includes a minimum amount of acreage and allows for management in that area. However, management is retained by the authority of the Washington, D.C. office and the regional office. So anytime one of these roadless areas are to be worked on other than maintenance type work, if a timber sale or vegetation treatment is to be done, it has to go clear up the ladder to Washington, D.C., back down, and they give the approval or disapproval to do that work. A good example was a couple of years ago when the Farm Bill allowed for some work to be done on the Dixie National Forest in an area that was to be showcased by Governor Herbert. The Forest Service started putting that plan together and found that it was in an inventoried roadless area, so it shrunk it way down to where it was really not feasible, and they more or less abandoned that process.
And roadless area doesn't mean it's roadless.
It's roadless in the fact that they've closed the roads in that area.
Your USB drive is empty.
It's empty. Maybe I didn't. Well, go ahead and put that other map that you had. It's close enough.
Is that it?
Anyway, these roadless areas are governed by rule in the Forest Service, and a state can petition for a special exemption on these roadless areas that allows more flexibility for the Forest Service to work on these. Idaho and Colorado have received an exemption to this. Alaska right now is working on that exemption and have a team put together, and therefore Governor Herbert wanted to take advantage of that team while they're still together and get a petition into the Forest Service to consider the forests in Utah under that exemption and move forward in managing these forests a little better, these roadless areas a little better than what can be done.
Is that the entire forest in the state, or just selected?
All the forests in the state.
Whole shop.
It'll be, the petition will be, so it'll be the Ashley, the Manti La Salle, the Fish Lake, whatever is in the state. Okay, then one thing I want you to consider too, PLEPCO has then directed the counties to put together their inventoried roadless areas and how the county would like to see what flexibility put into those. And that's where the county has been involved. And they've requested that we do that under the County Resource Management Plan that was completed about a year ago. And that was completed as part of the general plan. So what we've done to date is we've currently got 10 roadless areas or partial roadless areas in the county. Starting over to the west is North Hills, which is out south of Modena, and goes clear across up into north of Duck Creek and Bunker Creek and over into Lower Bear Valley and over on the Mineral Creek over by Willow Creek and Cottonwood Peak. So that's the basic roadless areas. The direction that PLEPCO wanted to see these done, they gave us certain areas or categories that they wanted us to break these up into, and these categories include primitive areas where the county determines that there's really nothing that can be done in those. They're probably truly roadless areas due to the roughness, the terrain, whatever else. There's really not much value as far as getting in there. There's no catastrophic fire situations that are a threat from those roadless areas. So that was the first one. Forest restoration areas. These are areas where they may have some stuff that need to be done. You can get in there and do it and get out and take care of that. Then the active management areas, these are areas that would be in there that need management periodically, and it's probably more in the higher catastrophic fire areas, or a watershed or something like that. And then the last one would be a request to re-inventory either or adjust the boundary of that inventoried roadless area. And we do have a few of those. So let me go real quick through the North Hills of one on the further west. This is okay. The North Hills sets right over here, and it is a wild horse area.
Boundary adjustment.
It's it's the only one that I think Dixie is involved in, Dixie National Forest, and the BLM have that horse management area. They are proposing right now to gather those animals down to appropriate management level, which is great. They are also, there's only 1 or 2 water sources in that whole area. One is Nephi Springs, and the horses have about trampled it out. There's a few windmills on the west side and ponds over on the east side. And but in the plan that the BLM and the forest have put together, they're suggesting that they go in there and create some additional water sources to move those horses around so they're not congregated in one area, which we support. But in order to do that, they're going to need roads. And so we're suggesting that this area be pulled clear out of the system, an IRA, that it just become forest lands and managed as such.
What kind of water? Mike? Guzzlers or?
It could be guzzlers, it could be windmills, it could be additional ponds, but they'll need roads to get up in there and maintain them and whatever else. The next area is the Cove Mountain. This sets right north or south of Newcastle. It's really steep, higher country. There's really not much value in there as far as or no threats as far as the town of Newcastle. There's a pretty good buffer between the roadless area and Newcastle that is a little easier access. And so we've looked at this as a primitive area. Leave it as is. There's really no.
And all south of the reservoir.
Yes, yes. It's sets between the Page, or not the Page, but Pindo Creek as it goes over into Mountain Meadow and that area to the north. Then the Cane Mountain. Where am I there? The Cane Mountain. Old Irontown sets right there. This is real steep, rugged country. There's no roads in there. And the Forest Service is proposing to well, I just went out. Can you pull that back?
Yeah, I think you.
There. The Forest Service is proposing on that north end of that roadless area to put a strip of treatment in there to knock the pinyon juniper down, so they put a buffer between that roadless area and the old town of Old Irontown. If they do that, then I think we're suggesting just to leave it as is, as a primitive area.
That's the blue area then?
Yeah, and then this is Stoddard Peak. This area right in here is the Comstock. It's one of the areas that is suggested that we're going to have a blow up in there one of these days if they don't do some veg treatments. We're suggesting that the red areas, that they re-inventory that and knock those red areas out so they can get in and do some fire management in those areas.
Any of the mine property?
No, this is all Forest Service. Yeah.
South of the mine?
Yes. You know, south of Lion's Mouth. The Stoddard Peak itself is a good roadless area. There's no way you can ever get a road on there. I only know of horse trails in there, so it's a real rugged, rough country. but it's a jungle from there on down to the houses. And so we're just suggesting they allow forest management in those red areas. They re-inventory it, take those red areas out, and then allow forest management in them. Here we've got 3 altogether. This timber cone, timber cinder cone is east of or south or north of Duck Creek. Duck Creek, you can see. Can't get that to work very well there. That's Navajo Lake. Duck Creek sits right there. And so there's a OHV trail that goes right up between them 2 segments. This is the lava flow out on the Red Desert, basically, and it's intermittent with aspen and conifers in there. We're suggesting that they put that into forest restoration area where they go in and do some work. They either prescribe burn to get those trees out. The fear is that if a fire starts down there, it may go northeast into Panguitch Lake or Hatch or one of those places. So do some work in there, just don't let it sit there. The same with the one next to it, which is this one right here, sits right on the border of Garfield and Iron County, and that'd be a fire restoration area where they go in and with prescribed burns or timber where they can harvest it if they can get equipment in there. Pretty rough area because of the lava flow in there.
You coordinated with Garfield, I mean,
yes.
Strict line, county line, or do they want treatments on this?
We're suggesting the same thing on both sides. And then Hancock Peak is the one that sits just above that, right there. That is that big peak that sits right there south of 114 and by Cedar Breaks, or east of Cedar Breaks.
Cone?
What's that?
The big lava cone?
Yes, east of 43, or south of 43. And they have done some work on the very north end of that, but it's not enough. And if you look back there, it's just a mess of dead trees back in there. And
you're saying that's the next fire?
Yeah, it's the next one. And so we're asking them. The Forest Service has actually walked around that south or north and west side of that, trying to figure out if they can get in there to do some timber cells, because there's some timber in there, but it is so huge boulders and lava flows that it would cost them, a company, more to do than just not do anything. So we're suggesting they do prescribed burns in there, and that they take care of some of that deadfall and pull them houses out of harm's way. The Bunker Creek, that is mostly burnt this year or last year by the Bryan Head fire. And we're suggesting that they put that into an active management where they pull it out of or they have plans that every year they're going to do something in there for fire suppression or timber logging or vegetation treatment or something else like that, that they just don't let it sit there like it has been for the last 40 years. And even though it's burnt, it still needs some management. There's still some stands of trees in there that probably need thinned and whatever else. Then these two up here, this is the Bear Valley Peak. It sits south or north of Sandy Peak, and we're requesting that they take that out of the system, and that they also, the red areas, they do pinyon juniper management in them to reduce the threat of fire and to make it a...
Those areas north or south of 20?
That would be south of 20. And then Cottonwood Peak, which they call this Mineral Mountain IRA or Mineral Creek IRA, inventory roadless area. This is the deer wintering area, very crucial deer wintering area. They've done some vegetation management prior to that becoming a roadless area. once they made it a roadless area, they took out all the roads, and then vegetation management areas are just sitting there growing old again. And we're suggesting they remove that totally from the IRA system and do management for the deer herds and grazing on cattle and whatnot. Anyway, that's where we are with those IRAs. The petition would allow us to amend the general plan and make this part of the county resource management plan within the general plan.
We have to have a public hearing then, or is that what we're doing right
Yes.
now, or?
Oh, yes, and also, this went through the planning commission, when was it, the first Thursday in September? And the planning commission recommendation was to forward it on to you with the, as presented.
Great work, Mike.
Length of time for advertisement?
We have that, haven't we advertised for it?
Reed?
Yes, it's been advertised.
Yeah.
So this is the public
This
hearing?
is the public
Okay.
hearing.
Okay. So,
Reciprocation, that's what threw us.
Oh.
With that being said, let's declare the public hearing open for consideration on item number 12. Seeing no comments, we'll close the public hearing. Call for a motion.
Okay, I move approval of ordinance 2018-2, approval of an ordinance of the Board of the County Commissioners, excuse me, providing for amendments to the Iron County Resource Management Plan as part of the Iron County General Plan, and this involves the going forward with the governor's initiative for roadless areas.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is approved. Item number 13, notice of annexation of parcel into Cedar City for Mark Meisner Judd, located in the south half of Section 32, Township 35 South, Range 11 West, Salt Lake Meridian, Cedar City, Utah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Yeah, as
this
you can
just a
see
matter of
there,
information, Mike.
we've got that
Does it
parcel.
require
that
something?
just Mark.
I think it's just notice of it.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
Dale.
it's just notice, you don't have to do anything.
Hmm.
It doesn't require action on your part.
Just FYI.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this has been brought before Cedar City Planning Commission, and so we're just noticed that they've seen this. We had a bigger parcel to begin with, but the Judds have decided to not move forward with that annexation. So this parcel is just that blue section now, right up against the Cedar City boundaries. He's had.
Since it requires no action, I'd suggest that we let it proceed as possible with no
Yeah.
contest from Iron County.
Right. No, we'll support that action.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. For item numbers 14 and 15, we'll step out of our role as the Iron County Commission and convene as the Board of Equalization. Turn the time over to Christine Louder to address those two issues.
Good morning.
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 Okay, I know you have information in your packets, but I prepared.
It's a lot
This
easier
is
to look
sort of
at.
easier to look
Thank
at.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Okay, just as a short refresher course, Abatements are for individuals that, let me back up. There are 4 different types of abatements. There's the veterans abatements, there's the blind abatement, special abatement, and a circuit breaker abatement. Blinds are for individuals that meet the qualifications of being a blind individual, legally blind. Specials are for individuals that are 65 or under, that are either disabled on disability, or it would be an extreme hardship for them to pay their property taxes. Circuit breakers are for individuals 66 or older that are meet the income qualifications, as well as the special abatement also has income qualifications, or on a circuit breaker if they are widows or widowers. And then the veterans abatement is for veterans that have a service-connected disability of 10% or more and are a full-time county resident. They don't need to own a home, but they do need to reside here.
And which one of these brings some state reimbursement?
The circuit breaker. So on the papers that I gave you, currently the amount that we will be receiving for reimbursement, and it will be a little bit higher than this once everything is totaled out by the end of November, will be, currently it's $175,543.42, and that's on that second page, because we have not added in the mobile home circuit breakers, and then there'll most likely be some adjustments and some late files. Looking at that second page, as of Friday, we've abated a total of $820,464.53. As you can tell, the majority of that is actually veterans. We had 425 veterans, I did a quick count this morning, and I just barely signed up another one before I came in the door. So this year alone, we have signed up an additional 69 veterans. We have a lot of veterans in our county, various ages.
Any debilitating requirements for a veteran?
A veteran only needs to have a service-connected disability of 10% or more. If they have served and do not have that classification, then currently under Utah code, they do not qualify. With this veterans abatement, they can use it towards their home as a primary residence and or in vehicle registration. So as of Friday, when I added everything up, we had just short of $40,000 that we had abated in vehicle abatements for so far this year. I might mention with veterans, they can apply anytime throughout the year, and they receive the vehicle abatement anytime throughout the year. Let's see, the third page, in the past you have requested information on where we have stood in previous years. I didn't know how far back you wanted to go, so I just went to 2016. And just for instance, in 2016, our total amount for circuit breakers at the end of the year was only $162,057, and we're already at $175,000 this year. So there are more people that are finding out about the program. There are more people that qualify for the program. I did mention the circuit breaker and the special abatement. You have to meet a certain income. That is set by the state. They have to have an income of less than $32,758. So they're that is another qualifier on that. So basically what I'm asking is for you to approve the abatements that have been accepted, reviewed and processed so far. I will present by the first commission meeting in December any adjustments, any additions that will transpire between now and the end of November. And after that, the only abatements would be veterans until next year at this time.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd move the approval of discussion item agenda number 14 for abatement as presented with a handout in the total amount of $820,462.53 per the presentation by Deputy Auditor Christine.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. You betcha.
You could have done that.
All right, item number 15, request review and approval of hearing officers' recommendations for the appeals filed with the Board of Equalization.
This year, our Board of Equalization was at an all-time low, which is good. Total of 207 appeal applications. Your master log will reflect what was entered in the system and adjusted. It'll also back up I give you a spreadsheet that'll show the Board of Equalization's individual appeals, the decisions reached, color-coded. There's a key on the very back page, page 6. It'll show you the key of the color code. It'll also show you the market adjustment and taxable adjustment individual by the individual appeal numbers. This year we did a total of $3,860,443 in market adjustments. We did a taxable value adjustment of $5,969,285 in taxable value adjustments. How that affects your budget this year, I've given you a report for the budgetary concerns for the general fund as well as municipal services, and I've backlogged that for the last 5 years so you can kind of see the trend for the last 5 years. This year for 2018, your reduction in county general fund taxes is $9,837.38. Municipal service adjustments, a reduction for 2018 is $3,396.28. And the total difference in tax adjustments for the county is $13,233.66.
Where are you? 2,352.
13,002. Where are you looking?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking you.
On the Board of Equalization Commission report, in the very end, it should be the last report you received.
Okay.
On the very bottom, it'll show you the general tax, the county taxes, and your municipal services. On the very first page is 2018. And then it shows you the subsequent years for the last 5 years behind it.
Very low.
So to give you just an idea, from 2013, the total adjusted was 85,000.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
15,000.
Yes. It's been trending down because again, this is the lowest year we've ever done for Board of Equalization.
If the economy goes down, then you'll have a lot more people that will
Yeah, last year we had 359 appeals, and this year we only had 207.
Okay, you ready for a motion?
Yes.
I move approval of the hearing officer's recommendations for the appeals filed with the Board of Equalization, a total adjustment of $98.37 38 for county general fund, and municipal services a total of $3,396 28.
You need to also approve the total taxable and market value adjustments.
And to approve the total taxable value and market value adjustments as presented by the auditor's office.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. That's all right. I can stay there. Thank you. We'll step out of our role as the Board of Equalization back into the role as Iron County Commission for item number 16, which is a discussion and possible approval to modify an existing contract to landscape the grounds around the courthouse to also include an identifying sign. Mr. Ross.
Apologize for not getting this to you.
Thank you.
Was operating and then realized that was commission meeting on Monday, on Friday afternoon. Luckily enough, John was kind enough to get me back in. What I'm suggesting we do is working with the landscaper. He has a masonry contractor that he uses quite often to build masonry walls and also brickwork. Seen the work, it's actually quite nice, and the price actually came in lower than I was estimating, a lot lower than I was actually estimating. So we would alter his contract to include the masonry and concrete portion of and the electrical portion of the sign. Would be a total of $10,280 for that portion. And then we would also have contract with Rainbow Sign and Banner, who designed the sign, to build the actual sign portion. And that would be for a total of $2,515.46. And then because of this type of project, we always have a little bit of issues when they start actually happening. I request a little bit of buffer zone on the budget.
So you want to handle the sign separately from the landscape?
What's that?
You want to handle the sign separately from the...
Yeah, I will deal with the rainbow sign directly with the sign, but the MJ is actually the landscape contractor.
And did we decide with sign B?
We decided on sign A.
Yeah,
So
We were horizontal, but I couldn't remember which one.
yeah, the debate was between A and B. The felt was that A would be easier to
stands out.
Right.
to read. That, and it actually does match the sign inside the building. So
25, so you need approval for the 1475, Lester?
Yeah.
Then I'll move the approval of the sign proposal.
for the landscaping. I think we may have. Our original estimate was around 20,000 is what I was estimating. I didn't know if we put that in or not.
I know I put in
So that's kind of my cost estimate of the sign from the prices I was getting for my preliminary bids.
And then I thought you talked about some additional concrete.
That's just part of the
That's
contract.
included in here?
It's not. That's separate. That's that will be dealt with the landscaping contract as we.
How big of a pavilion pad did we agree on?
We're going to be doing a 24 by 24 feet by 24 feet, which should accommodate 2 tables quite nicely.
That's a good sized pad.
And it's a good sized pad. Anything bigger, we kind of walked it earlier last week before the rain started, and that's about as big as we felt we could comfortably go in that area.
Is that under the locust on
Yeah.
the southwest corner?
Yeah, that puts it about 5 feet off the building and 5 feet off the sidewalk, kind of.
And you maybe have plans in the future for?
Yes.
Okay.
For doing a pavilion on top of it.
That'd be great.
That's a good sized pad.
Yeah, that's good.
So I'd move the approval of the sign proposal from MJS to include rainbow sign design in the amount of $14,075 and recognize sign number A.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And on the concrete, what we actually have from them is a square footage on concrete. So that cost will vary between how much concrete I do through the whole landscaping process.
What's concrete, about $6? Or
His it's like $7 a square foot, I think, is what we were. If I remember right, I don't have that number in front of me, but
4-inch, 6 bag. What are you?
Yeah, 4-inch, 6. So.
And Dale, you said recognize sign A. Was it sign A or was it sign B?
A. Sign A.
Yeah, the light background.
It's a light background?
Yeah, with the stainless background.
Okay.
Thanks, sir. I see you got the bird holes patch too.
Yes,
Oh,
I got that done.
That
Came out all right. You can, if you look close, you can see them, but you were always going to get that.
It's a good patch.
Looks
So
a lot
hopefully
better.
We've stayed from it, and then I do have another request on landscaping, but I can hit that in the later point if you'd like.
Item number 17 is Utah Patchworks Parkway Annual Report. But looking over the crowd, I didn't see anybody,
See a Dutch or a Nancy.
Dutch or Nancy here, so we will forego that report and go to number 18. Turn the time over to Adrian Walker for personnel issues.
Morning, Commissioners. Just a couple personnel items here. The first one was a new hire for corrections. New hire Taylor Dunn, hired as a corrections deputy. Correction on the date that's listed on the agenda. He actually, we're requesting the effective date to be October 7th, as of yesterday. This is a backfill of one of the vacant positions that exists within corrections. This, well, I guess we'll do the second one separate, right?
Sure, let's.
Okay, I move approval of new hire Taylor Dunn as correction deputy effective 10/7 of 18, a backfill of vacant position. You just go ahead.
All in favor?
You just go ahead. Did he second?
Oh, he seconded it.
Oh, I didn't hear him say.
We did.
He seconded it quick.
Thought he was still on the phone.
He is.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved.
Did he vote?
He voted.
Okay.
He said aye.
Sorry.
Okay, and item B, titled under assessor, you probably remember we had discussed as part of the 2018 budget, there was approval given to for the assessor's office to add a position. It was under I think we just classified it and kind of described it as a support, kind of a higher end support type of position, anticipating some of the changes within the assessor's office during the year. Cindy and her office, they've been able to kind of navigate those, that transition and the duties and have been able to avoid to date filling that position. It's just remained vacant. even though it was budgeted. And she may want to jump in here at any moment, but recent discussion and just evaluation of the needs within the assessor's office, we're wanting to request the possible consideration to convert that support or admin type of position to another appraiser. Cindy feels that that's going to better meet the needs and the workload that exists. Again, it was previously budgeted for, but has been unfilled, and the cost is very close. I mean, the appraiser wage is, I think it's within about $1 per hour in terms of what we had anticipated and planned for. With the other,
more or less,
a little more. So that's where some consideration needs to be given, and maybe again, if she probably wants to add or provide some clarification or some additional detail.
We'll have a budget surplus in that particular account because we've not filled it.
Yes.
So rolling forward, when you want to fill it, New Year's or
I'd like
SAP?
as soon as possible. Just try to get somebody in. The vacancy left by Anne is causing more concern than I had hoped. You can have the best people in the world, but sometimes you just can't replace 27 years, no matter how much you work and try. So we're struggling. We're doing okay, but was hoping I could rearrange some things to get a statistician to help us with our sales ratio and some things that we do. But in order for us to make those changes within the office, it's taken more time for Brian and I to rearrange the way we're doing everything to do that, and it's getting us more behind, even though maybe down the road it will still be a good idea. But right now we've got to have an appraiser come in and like you said, because that was budgeted for the entire year, and we're now third or fourth quarter and haven't replaced that, we'll be okay. And then even with Anne retiring and Brian taking that up and then hiring a newer appraiser, I mean, we brought him in higher because he wasn't just entry level, but I am looking really good on my budget, so we'll still be under where we had originally budgeted.
So that going forward next year will be reflected in your budget request?
Yes.
For next year, so we're okay. You just need approval for the position
to go into effect
upgrade
prior to next budget year, but again, there should be plenty of wiggle room in wage and benefits budget. So.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we approve the request from the recorder, the
Assessor.
Good health thing. What are you? The assessor to convert a deputy assessor support position to an appraiser position to help out with the workload.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, thank you. Yes.
Adrian, don't run off before I get a chance to visit with you.
Okay.
All right, moving on to non-delegated items. Anything?
Happily no
Prairie
prairie
dog
dog.
landscaping, but it wasn't an agenda item. I do have a request to replace our fencing out back. This will be the 4th time it's been taken down in 2 years, and it's looking pretty shabby.
This is the rusty chain link.
The rusty chain link.
Okay.
I priced out, and he was supposed to get me a firm cost, and I don't have the exact firm cost this morning. I had him price out both standard chain link and also privacy slat chain link. The privacy slat chain link would actually run us about $2,400. And then, so we could put the privacy slats around the equipment so you wouldn't see back into that area from the parking lot. Or if that's too much, I think the other one was about half. So it was about $1,000, $1,500 for a regular chain link.
So our property fence between?
No, this is just around the,
Utility area in the
utility
back.
area.
Yeah. And sorry, Lester, 2,400 and
I am.
1,500?
What's that?
2,400 and 1,500?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, you know, those numbers are, I'm trying to remember, that was off of a phone call last week. I was supposed to get a
Okay.
emailed one, but I don't have it yet.
How tall is that if we do
It's
the
a 6
slats?
foot.
So if we do the slats, it's gonna pretty much obscure that.
Yeah, it should, it's
Oh,
clear
maybe
that
not.
most of the equipment, you see the top of the air handler a little bit, but you wouldn't see all that stuff back up in there. But
Be a nice cosmetic thing.
What does that do for the window, view out the window? Is that?
their windows are above it.
You still look down in on
You
it.
still look down in on it, but they
And how
would,
big a service gate?
what's that?
How big a service gate?
The same one that's there. Right now, it's just a man gate. We may want to talk about doing that, to actually putting in a gate, so we don't have to pull down the slats every time we have to bring something.
I'd actually like to address that just because that's been an issue over the years. It'd be nice to have maybe even one right on the parking lot, you know, right on that
Yeah, that would
sidewalk.
swing open. That would not be a bad idea to look into, because like I said, that if we had a service gate, this probably wouldn't be a discussion.
It would have been torn down so many times.
Yeah.
Can't service much for chiller with a man gate.
No. So, if you'd like me to look into that, I can
Six
get
or
that to
two
you and get the
double
cost back to you, so.
6 or double 4s, how big you want?
I would do, honestly, I do 2 6s. You want to be able, and that, how that, space-wise,
Yeah.
you're gonna need to be able to pull in and maneuver, which with a 12-foot opening would be much easier with any equipment that you would bring in.
Bring 'em boom.
So how does that change your price?
I'm not sure. I will have to get a price back to it and then get back with you on that. So,
Well, the single man gate was back to the days when the lawnmower was parked in there, and that's how they got the lawnmower out. But yeah,
Can't service anything with a man gate.
right.
so,
I suggest we ask him to bring back a price and give him our preliminary concurrence to move forward with it.
okay, I'll get a
That
price
sounds
with doing a man gate.
Don't totally eliminate the man gate and just have, I mean, you don't need both, do you? Just have
Yeah, I won't need both. Just use the side.
service gate.
The service gate.
I agree with
So.
Commissioner Brinkerhoff.
And then I talked to Alma and Dell about it, but I didn't talk to Mike. The corner up here by the, between the grass area and the driveway, where we were going to do rock, we're actually, that's where we're going to do that in concrete now. I didn't want to put it back in grass because every time we pushed snow, the grass got cut up, and we're gonna have the same issue with rock, and so we're talking just doing it in concrete, and then we don't have to worry about it getting ripped up anymore.
Will that be a change order or just,
The total cost may change at the end, but what we have is a square foot price for concrete. So it's the same square foot price, because when we did the bidding, we didn't know exactly how much pad we were gonna do for the pavilion.
we should get credit though,
So there's a little
for the
trade-off.
fact that he doesn't have, some trade-off.
Yeah, there's some trade-off in it, so. And that's, if you walk down the handicap ramp, if you're walking off the handicap ramp, it's that area right to the right.
The sidewalk on the north side that goes out through the parking lot of what used to be the bank, I don't know if you're gonna do that, but that's cracked.
I hadn't looked at it. I will take a look at it.
It's got a pretty decent crack. At some point, it's gonna be a trip hazard, but I don't know if you were gonna do it. But if you're gonna replace it, you might as well fix it while you're
I'll take a look at it and see if it is
It'd just be one section then.
a concern. We did have some over there where we were replacing, coming back into the building, into the basement, just because the one piece is lifted and the other piece has been re-poured. And it's gonna be 10 times easier for the landscaping to just go back and take the lifted piece out and re-angle it so we can actually get it to drain. But that was already figured into the cost on that, so.
Building looks good.
I will get some stuff back on the fence for you, so. And I guess there was some concerns about bugs and lights. That will be taken care of because the lights are removable, the covers.
We'll need to have a little conversation about public safety, EOC build-out room sometime too.
Still gotta figure out when they're coming.
Yeah, we gotta figure
Anything else?
Service.
Declare it.
We're going to declare the meeting closed. I can't sit anymore. Holy.
Figure out
Dan.
guys and
Dan.
get the etymology on them, and then like spray on certain Friday afternoons when nobody's going to be in here and
Yeah.
try to poison them.
We do blow
Yes,
bombs
sir.
in our house.
Accessory use and accessory outside storage mean the same thing.
You know, I had my printer test it, and one stamp will do.
As far as I'm concerned,
I couldn't believe it.
Legally.
But he said one stamp will do. And I don't advertise
Telling me
this, but
that
if you
he won't-
don't put enough postage on it,
get after me for having
we actually get it back, and then I have a postage due account.
Okay,
Just because
because
I'd rather get the ballot
violates
than
this.
not. Yeah.
See,
Yeah, I
it is
couldn't believe it. 17-inch ballot and one stamp.
hazardous materials.
And it's cardstock. You know, it's heavy paper.
Propane tank that
And he
exploded.
weighted it. It was close. I mean, it was. You add another, like we were.
He's telling me we won't get after him
Yeah.
for some
Well,
reason.
and so like some people have, if you register to vote and you
come after
need
the
to
county.
send us proof of ID.
Authorized.
We figure one more piece of paper will put it over the top.
Violation of their
But
own-
we also figure we'd eat that. So. Yeah. Anyway, good to see you.
You see what I'm saying? Oh, that's just a agenda. My contention is.
That's the plan, man.